Good evening, and welcome to the Township Committee meeting of October the 22nd of 2019. Ms. Bork, will you please call the roll?
Committeeman Lapani?
Present.
Committeewoman McCauley? Here. Committeewoman Holmes? Noted as absent. Deputy Mayor Thompson?
Here.
Mayor Delcor?
Here.
Attorney Willard?
Here.
Administrator Ferreira?
Here. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be advised that in accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, the notice of this meeting was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex and notifying the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex at 7:30 p.m. on October the 22nd of 2019. Before we get into our agenda, I'd just like to welcome, we have a special guest here with us tonight, our esteemed state senator, Kip Bateman has joined us this evening. Thank you, Senator, for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for all you do for Hillsborough and the district. We're going to move on to approval of our minutes. First up is the approval of the February 12th, 2019 executive session minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Mayor. Second.
Any comments from the dais? Any comments from the floor? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Lapani?
Yes.
Committeewoman McCauley?
Abstain?
Deputy Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Delcor?
Yes. We'll move to reports from committee liaisons. First up is Committeewoman McCauley.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. A few notes from the police department tonight. There's a traffic advisory, road closure on Orchard Drive, Monday, October 28th from 8:30 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. for tree work. The closure will be between River Road and Crater Road, so please plan accordingly, and please follow the posted detours. There will be signs posted there. I want to say thank you for the police department for hosting a few crime prevention presentations lately. I believe Committeeman Lapani was at one last night, but we joined them in talking to the senior groups, Senior A and Senior B, regarding fraud protection. And last night here in the multipurpose room, a session open to all residents was held on general crime prevention. It's especially important around the upcoming holidays for being aware. If you see something, say something. It's never too little. The police department is always here to serve you. As a final reminder about Halloween, please wear light-colored clothing. Wear some prevention tape, reflective tape to your costumes if possible. Make sure children can see well through masks and costumes. Adults should accompany young children. Stay within family neighborhoods or homes that you know. Watch for traffic. Watch for animals that are on the doors when you're answering the doors. Please watch your pets because sometimes they can get a little wily. And just public safety in general. And also a reminder for Township Code 149-1 is no person under the age of 18 years shall be permitted on any public space, place, street, or public property in the township between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. That is every day during the period of October 28th through November 1st. It's for safety purposes unless you're attending a program, work, function sponsored by a municipality or a church or a school, and accompanied by an adult. There is that curfew, so please be aware of that. One quick thing, Operation Take Back is this Saturday, October 26th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. in the police department lobby. While there's always something there, Operation Take Back is a program from the Drug Enforcement Administration for residents to dispose of their unused, unwanted, or expired household medicine. If you have any household medicine that you wish to dispose of, please visit the drop-off box in the police main lobby. Please join Hillsborough PBA 205. They're doing some events out in the public, and this week on November 2nd at Chipotle, there'll be a fundraiser there for the PBA between 4 and 8 p.m. Grab a burrito or something to eat and come out and support our police officers. And that's it for me this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Committeeman Lapani.
Thank you, Mayor. As Committeewoman McCauley noted, last night the police department hosted a crime prevention talk over in the multi-purpose room. for open to all residents. The conversation was very interactive and good information was shared on both sides. Especially, you'd be surprised what good tips came from both the residents as well as Mr. Olsnick that was hosting it. I'd like to thank Chief McMahon and the members of all the police department who attended, particularly Detective Hank Olsnick, who put the program together and emceed it, so to speak. The note that was coming out was just, the best bet is just be vigilant on your own safety. Don't make it easy for a perpetrator to break into your house and or your car, or be in a fraud that you might suspect. If your gut feels it's not right, it probably isn't, and call the police if you have any questions. Thank you to Hank and for holding a great night last night. As a reminder from the building department, if you're hiring a contractor to do work on your home, it is important to stay in contact with them. Good communication with your contractors help keep you in the loop of the project and its status, and inspection status in particular. So don't rely on your contractor to do everything, so keep tabs on them. Sometimes things slip through the cracks, as so to speak. From the engineering department, we'd like to remind property owners, specifically businesses and homeowner associations, that it is their responsibility to maintain and upkeep the stormwater facilities, i.e. the detention basins, catch basins, and piping. Lack of maintenance will cause additional flooding to adjoining properties. In addition, per township ordinance, all property owners with private stormwater facilities are required to submit a report to our engineering department each year certifying their stormwater facilities are maintained and operating as designed. From the finance department, the added omitted bills have been mailed. If you have a question on what this billing was based on, please contact the assessor's office at 908-369-8077. From DPW, in an effort to reduce downtime of equipment, DPW mechanics are focusing efforts on maintenance and repairs of snow and ice equipment. Yes, it's coming soon. And trucks in advance of the winter months. They recently installed new salt brine making system is up and running and ready to go. The new equipment will allow us for a much faster and considerably more efficient application of the brine mix on the township roads. Behind me are photos of Mayor Delcor getting the first-hand look at the operation with representatives of the department. And just as a final reminder, the HBA event is still time to register for the event being held November 7th from 6 to 9 at the Nest. Visit the HBA website to register. This inaugural event will feature live music and recognition of various businesses and business resources around town. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committeewoman Holmes was unable to join us tonight, so we'll move to Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things from me. From our health department, they are recognizing October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, just as we did last meeting with the proclamation. Screening tests for early detection can be critical to successful treatment. The American Cancer Society guidelines on screening have been updated to take individual risk factors into consideration. You can visit the website at www.acs.org to read about these types of tests and frequency recommended for your risk, which considers family history and other factors. The Health Department worked closely with Zulfa Health in Somerville to advertise free screening to those women who qualify. The screenings are offered through the New Jersey Cancer Education Early Detection, or NJSEED program, and are held at the Somerville Zulfa location. Please check their website at www.zufallhealth.org. Other cancer screenings are offered as well, including cervical, colon, and prostate cancer screenings. Zulfa also offers low-cost or free medical care to those who qualify. You can visit their website or call them at 908-526-2335. Reminder from our library that the Somerset County Library System of New Jersey is collecting winter coats for children now through November 1st. This initiative is in partnership with the Somerset County Commission on the Status of Women to assist those in need. The donation drive, Project Warm Your Heart, will benefit the children of clients in the food bank network of Somerset County. Donations can be in the form of new or gently used winter clothing items, including winter coats, mittens, gloves, scarves, and hats for children. Please visit the Hillsborough branch to drop off your donation. From our Recreation Department, it's the last call for boys and girls winter basketball registration. The Boys League is open to boys in grades 4 through 12, and the Girls League is open to girls in grades 3 through 8. New to this year's program is the Girls Basketball Cross-Town League, where the girls will play other local municipalities. Registration deadline is Friday, October 25th. For more information, please visit our website at hillsboroughNJRecreation.org. Also a reminder that Thursday, October 24th, from 3:30 to 5:30 is the annual Children's Halloween Party at Norris Hill Farm. All children registered will go on a hayride where they can pick a pumpkin from the patch, go through the kids' bale maze, hay bale maze, and receive a goodie bag. The cost is $8 per child, and pre-registration is required through our website at hillsboroughNJRecreation.org. And finally, don't forget to bring your dog in costume to the 5th annual Halloween on Saturday, October 26th at AVM Park. Check-in begins at 8:30 a.m. and the dog parade begins at 9 a.m. Advanced registration is not needed. Prizes and awards will be given to top costumes. And in the case of inclement weather, please check our website's homepage for cancellation information. That's all from me, Mayor, but I do want to mention one more thing, sort of a point of personal privilege, because I know you won't take the opportunity to do this. For those that don't know in the audience, Mayor Delcourt on November 21st is being honored by the Boy Scouts of America in a 2019 Toast to Scouting. I know you would not bring this up, but it is a tremendous honor that you're being awarded and recognized at that meeting. So I do want to make mention of it so that everyone here would know that. I think it is well-deserved. And also, the Master of Ceremonies for that evening and the event chair, Kip Bateman, is here for that as well. So again, Kip, thank you for being the MC on that. And again, congratulations, Mayor Delcourt.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor, and the Scouts in this area do a tremendous job. We do a lot of work with them. They do tremendous projects here for the municipality, so it's great to be able to support them, and this honor is something very special. Okay, thank you for your comments. We'll move on. I have a few items myself tonight. Just a quick road paving update. You may have seen at the last meeting, I talked about the fact that we were just about ready to open up the Hamilton Road Bridge. I can say now that that is open. We finally were able to open that this past Saturday, about 6 months ahead of schedule. I'd like to thank the DOT for their work in trying to move this along, the contractors that were involved, and of course some of our staff here in town that really pushed to try to get that bridge open. It was a significant detour that was created as a result of it, and having that back open really just frees up a lot of roads here in town for our residents. So thanks to everyone that was able to get this done so quickly. Some of you may be aware we do have a bus service that goes to New York. It runs from the Cole Shopping Center. That's a weekly service for our commuters that go into New York. We're also looking at the possibility of doing a weekend service in conjunction with RideWise. So if you are interested, there's a survey that's being conducted for both residents and travelers to determine the level of interest that they might have in a weekend bus service to New York City. We think it would be extremely beneficial, especially for those that would like to go in for all of that New York has to offer. If you are interested in such a service, we ask that you visit the RideWise site, which is www.risewise.org, and click on Weekend Bus Service from Hillsborough to New York City survey link, and you can complete that brief survey. We'll also put the link on the Township website, but we'd certainly like to hear from you if it's something you would like, and we'll work with RideWise to get it done. We are excited to offer we have some limited parking issues here at the municipal complex, but we wanted to make sure that we were able to provide some parking to some of our senior community at the front of the building through a community outreach program that Administrator Ferrera and I conducted at the Gateway. It was suggested by a resident that we put some signage out front and also that we may consider putting signs at local businesses for some of our more senior residents here in town. As we wanted to be a leader in the process, we went out and we set 2 spaces aside. It was a little wet out there a little while ago, but I'd like to thank our 2 senior clubs for participating in that kickoff, and I'd like to thank the residents from the Gateway community that helped us with the thought process here. So glad to be able to put that out there and offer it. It's okay.
No, we started in the rain.
Well, since you were out there in the rain just a couple minutes ago with the seniors.
I don't think my seat has dried quite yet, yes. Yeah, so we weren't lying, we were out there in the rain. But it was glad to be able to offer those. We'll also be doing some veterans parking as well out in front of the municipal building, and we'll talk about that. TV 29, those of you may be aware, is our local TV cable station. We recently unveiled the new TV 29 logo and format. So I'm going to show, we have a t-shirt that was initiated. Are you 29 wise? And the TV 29 logo with the Hillsborough colors on the back. The initiative is to help promote the local TV channel, and some of the things you can find on TV 29 are the Township Committee meetings, Planning Board meetings, episodes of Hillsborough The Good Life, videos of special township events such as fireworks, Senior Olympics, etc. And if you go on there, be sure to check out all that we have to offer there, and you might even see yourself in one of the videos. So if you'd like to help get the word out, there are t-shirts we have in the back available for anyone that can take them on their way out. And if you need some different sizing, you can talk to, please talk to Pam or Sarah, and Sarah, thank you for your contribution to the shirt and as part of the design. I'd like to thank Kandarp Shah for the invitation to celebrate Garba and Dandian Night. That was a two-weekend event that's held at the high school. It's a large festival. It's held by the Asian Indian Heritage Association each year, and it was packed as always. And I appreciate the opportunity to come out and address some of our residents there on that festival. I was also recently able to participate in the steeplechase run as part of the Steps Together team. I'd like to thank Courtney Newman for her work on the Steps Together process. She does a really incredible job of raising money that goes back to support local families that require some assistance for medical bills or medical support. So happy to help that charity in raising some money for some great causes here locally. In addition, a couple of Sundays ago, we had our first annual Mayor's Walk and Talk at the Duke Farms. We met on a Sunday morning. It was a beautiful Sunday, if you recall, a couple of weeks ago. And we had a walk through the short course at Duke Farms. We did have a number of residents come out, and they did pepper me with questions. So it was good to get out and answer some of their questions, see what was on people's minds. So I'd like to thank them for coming out and Duke Farms for hosting us there. A quick save the date. Please join us on November the 1st at the Devils game. That's our annual Hillsborough Community Night at the Devils. The link to purchase tickets will be in Friday's e-news. It was in last Friday's as well. This is in conjunction with PBA number 205 in support of one of our officers. So it is a fundraiser that we'll be working. Hillsborough's Finest will be presenting the colors, and there'll also be an opportunity for a post-game picture on the ice with a group photo as well. So if you'd like to join us for the Devils Night, please join us again November 1st. Tickets are available on the Township website. Veterans Day is fast approaching. All Township residents are invited to join us on Monday, November the 11th at 6 p.m. in the Garden of Honor, which is our annual Veterans Day ceremony. Following the outdoor ceremony, obviously weather permitting, there will be light refreshments in the senior activity room. So please come out if you can and join us to honor all of our Hillsborough veterans. And if you'd like to stay connected, as always, you can stay connected with all Township events via the Friday e-newsletter and our Twitter feed. We have our TV 29, as noted, and the Hillsborough YouTube channels, which showcase our meetings, as well as Hillsborough The Good Life episodes. And we also have our Hillsborough alerts for traffic and emergency notifications. So that does it for me this evening. We do have a number of proclamations tonight, so we're going to move on to our proclamation list. We ask that after you receive your proclamations, if you could please return to your seat. We will pause after our proclamations and some presentations that we have tonight. I'll give you some time to. We'll we'll stop the meeting for a couple minutes, let everybody have an orderly departure. If you'd like to go, if you'd like to stay, you're more than welcome. But please be respectful and just stay in your seats until we get through all the recognitions. We have a number of proclamations we want to get through. We want to make sure everyone gets their recognition. Okay. First up tonight, we have a proclamation for our Night of Conversation. Who's ever here for Night of Conversation? Come forward now. Senator, would you like to join us for the proclamations? The deadly disease of addiction is prevalent in our society with untold suffering and grief, lost productivity, healthcare costs, various family burdens, and crime. On January 9, 2017, in New Jersey, legislation was signed into law designating one night as a night of conversation to encourage conversation and public discourse about drugs and alcohol addiction. By declaring this night of conversation, schools, community organizations, youth organizations, and faith-based and secular groups will recommend where to find reliable information, where to access help or care, and conduct their own drug abuse prevention activities. An empty dinner plate will serve as a universal symbol for eternal recognition of the night of conversation and will symbolize on this night the conversation is more important than the food. Somerset County YMCA, Hillsborough Township School District, Empower Somerset, the Safe Communities Coalition of Somerset County, Hillsborough Municipal Alliance, and the Hillsborough Youth Services Commission are partnering to host a night of conversation on November the 14th, 2019 to encourage parents to talk to their children about alcohol and drug addiction. The Township Committee supports November 14th as a night of conversation and encourages the citizens of Hillsborough to participate in drug prevention activities and programs. It's a really important night. I think everyone's aware of how not just our community, but really the country is gripped in addiction problems. And having these conversations goes a long way to providing some measure of prevention here. And we have wonderful organizations here in Hillsborough that do all they can to try to alleviate some of this scourge. So I'd like to turn it over to Pastor Wolf and let him comment a little bit further on the night of conversation.
Real quickly, this is our third annual Night of Conversation. So if you were at the other two, you know we focused on drug and alcohol abuse, and this one will focus on vaping, which seems to be an issue for people around the country, and particularly New Jersey and in our area. So we'll have a presentation, we'll have opportunities to learn to share around the table, just to bring back that whole idea that sitting around the table and having a discussion is the first line of fighting a disease and issues like this. So we have flyers. If you're interested, you can find it all over the place. We'll be posting on our websites and everything else. So thank you for joining us in November for our third annual Night of Conversation.
Okay, can I have Amanda Wendt come on up? Amanda Wendt, a senior at Hillsborough High School and a member of Girl Scout Troop 60365, has earned her Gold Award. Amanda's Gold Award project was to help increase public awareness about the seriousness of food allergies by holding a food allergy awareness event. She created custom-ordered metal signs with food allergy facts, installed them at local Hillsborough parks, and created a Girl Scout food allergy awareness patch. The project took over 80 hours to complete. Amanda is a member of the Italian National Honor Society, Scrapbook Club, Spirit Night Dance Team, and treasurer of the Art Club. She's a peer mentor at Mission Cognition Social Skills Development Centers and has participated in various roles in food pack-out events for Feed My Starving Children. The Hillsborough Township Committee recognizes and extends our sincere congratulations to Amanda for having earned her Girl Scout Award, an honor for both her and those who have guided her, and we wish Amanda all the best in her future endeavors. This is one of the really great things we get to do as the Township Committee, is to recognize the youth that goes through their either Gold Awards or Eagle Scout project. It's just, we have such incredible young people in this community, and Amanda, thank you for your project, and congratulations on your Gold Award.
I would really like to thank my parents for supporting me throughout this whole project, my sister for being the inspiration, my troop leader, Ms. Giordano, my advisor, Ms. Ashley Rose, and the mayor for this proclamation.
Very welcome. Can I have everyone here for Red Ribbon Week? Come on up, please. New Jersey has the sixth highest rate of fatal youth drug overdoses in the country. 15% of New Jersey teens admit to drinking alcohol for the first time before age 13, compared to 19% of teens nationally. 39% of teens aged 12 to 17 in New Jersey admitted to smoking marijuana at least once daily. The availability of relatively inexpensive and highly pure heroin in New Jersey has contributed to an increased number of drug-related deaths. The National Family Partnership for Drug-Free Youth, the District Life Skills Committee, and the Hillsborough-Millstone Municipal Alliance are sponsoring National Red Ribbon Campaign, which will be celebrated October 23rd through 31st, offering citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles. The Township Committee supports October 23rd to 31st as Red Ribbon Week and encourages the citizens of Hillsborough to participate in drug prevention activities, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free community. We further encourage all citizens to pledge, send a message, stay drug-free. This is one that we, as Township Committee, we always participate in Red Ribbon Week. It is the volunteers and community that we have here to help all of our youth with this scourge is something that we're all very proud of. And thank you to all of you for your work on this. Who would like to say a few words?
I just want to thank the mayor and the Township Committee, as always, for your support for all the drug and alcohol prevention initiatives that we do in the town. This week is Red Ribbon Week in our school district. There's a lot of things going on in the school. And also we are hosting an event on Thursday night. I'll put some flyers in the back for community and parents. Also really focusing on vaping. The presentation is done by the Partnership for Drug-Free New Jersey. Really great 1-hour presentation. Come and get educated at the Hillsborough Middle School, 7 o'clock. So if anybody's interested, there'll be flyers in the back. Thank you so much, and thank you for your support.
Okay, can we have those that are here for Lights On After School program? Lights On After School, the national celebration of after-school programs held on October 24, 2019, promotes the importance of quality after-school programs in the lives of children, families, and communities. More than 28 million children in the United States have parents who work outside the home, and 19.4 million children have no place to go after school. Woods Road Aftercare, under the direction of Catholic Charities Diocese of Metuchen, has provided significant leadership in the area of community involvement in the education and well-being of our youth, grounded in the principle that quality after-school programs are key to helping our children become successful adults. The Hillsborough Township Committee proclaims October 24, 2019 as Lights On After School Day and encourages continued innovative after-school programs and activities that ensure the lights stay on and the doors stay open for all children after school. Another very important program that our schools run. Thank you very much for that.
Yes, we're very excited and honored to be here at the Township Committee meeting. We actually opened 5 of our programs in 1995. So we actually have 5 of the schools that we've been in for 24 years. So we're very happy with the relationship we've had, especially with the school district, the board, the administration, and Hillsborough. We've definitely been able to reach a lot of families in all 7 schools, so we're very excited to be honored.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the honor.
Okay. And we also have those that are here for Jason's Run. Jason's Run is a USA Track and Field certified and sanctioned annual event in Hillsborough celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. Hillsborough High School track star Jason Walton took his life in 2008. Jason's Run is staffed by volunteers who help the Walton family carry on the tradition as well as raise awareness about the pervasive yet extremely difficult silent epidemic of suicide. The Walton family uses the proceeds to provide scholarships to Hillsborough High School seniors who are runners and embody a warm and generous spirit and sense of sportsmanship towards others. Since 2010, 24 Hillsborough High School track members have received a collective total of $13,000. The Hillsborough Township Committee is very proud of the Walton family and the Jason's Run event and supports and encourages the residents of Hillsborough to participate in this run each year. I've had the opportunity to attend several times. Had the opportunity to be there this year. It's a run that the proceeds that go to some of the local track people, but more importantly, keeps Jason's memory with us, and we appreciate you continuing to honor him by having this run. So it's our honor to be able to provide you with this proclamation tonight.
On behalf of my family, I want to thank the mayor and the town council for this proclamation. With the help of Christy Canopy, we were able to update our flyers, logos, and spread out our word about the run. The Hillsborough Teachers Association Pride Initiative also helped us with the shirts this year and last year. I am honored that we are able to remember Jason with the run, as well as being able to give 2 track scholarships each year. Because the run is doing so well, we are able to give the scholarships in the amount of $1,000 now to each of the students. Thank you again for the proclamation.
I know he wanted to be here tonight, but he couldn't make it. I'd like a special thank you for Coach Rick Reefy. Coach Reefy, shortly after Jason took his life, organized a run in his memory with several hundred high school kids attended. He, along with us, sat down. We put this run together to benefit the male and the female track athlete who demonstrated the most extra effort, not the best, the most extra effort, which is what my son did. Thank you.
Okay, we have also a presentation tonight from the Hillsborough Credit Card Committee.
Large group today. Okay, this is the fun part. We get to give out money that's not ours, that is yours. Those of you that have used the credit card, the Affinity Hillsborough credit card, Affinity matches what you spend. They give a portion into a fund that then we, as a committee, recommend grants that have been applied for. And that's what we're doing tonight. We're giving out certain grants. The first one, since she was a Girl Scout, we're giving out awards to the Girl Scouts. Service Unit 72. Is anyone here from 72? Big check. You girls.
Can't miss it.
Okay, the Girl Scout Unit 72 here in Hillsborough applied for a canopy with their name on it, banner, and new flags so that they could practice their flag ceremonies. And the Township with Affinity, issued them $700.
We would like to thank you for your very generous donation to our service unit, and we will use the money to purchase our new flag equipment.
Yeah, let's do one big one. Bring everybody. We'll do one. We'll take one big thing.
Okay. The soccer club, Hillsborough Soccer Club. Anybody here from the soccer club? Okay. They have applied for some netting for backstops. I believe it's at South Woods Road. There's a problem with the athletes going into the woods, getting ticks and so forth. So we have given them $1,000 towards new nettings to prevent this. So, Affinity. The Women's Club of Hillsborough. This is a new one that has come through, and they do wonderful works, and they have for many years. I know Barbara personally, and I think how many years? 40 years you've been part of the club? 44 years. and they'll say a few words of what they give back to the community. And they did ask us for, let's see, you asked us for? $885, which, well, actually, you asked us for $884. We rounded it off to $885, and it was for a PA system for their basket auction and for a coffee urn for their basket auction, so that they can raise funds and give back to the community.
I'd like to thank you for this grant. This allows us to give back to the community our fundraising efforts for the basket auction. We give back scholarships to the high school, and we support the social services department and many other charities. Thank you.
And if you don't spend that extra dollar, it comes back, okay?
May I say, there are only 8 of us, and we welcome the additional members.
The next group, the Hillsborough Baseball League. Anybody here from the Baseball League? And perhaps one of you can explain the buddy system that we have given them $500 towards equipment towards the buddy system.
Well, the Hillsborough Baseball League runs our Buddy League, which is our all-inclusive league for children of differing abilities. This grant is going to help us supply equipment for players in those leagues who come in usually without gloves, bats, helmets, anything. This gives us an opportunity to run this as a free program in the community and allows us to supply that equipment. So we thank the Affinity Credit Union and the Township very much for this grant. Thank you very much.
And Gigi's Playhouse. Gigi's Playhouse was awarded $1,000 towards a new computer. And perhaps you can explain Gigi's Playhouse to those that are not familiar with it.
So Gigi's Playhouse is right here in Hillsborough. We are a national group of playhouses that supports the Down syndrome community, specifically providing free therapeutic services to individuals with Down syndrome and their family. This money is being used towards basically a new computer for us, because the more efficient our sole office worker can be, the better we can provide for all of our participants. I know that we've worked with the Hillsborough Women's Club recently and had some outreach there. And frankly, I do know that being the father of a child with special needs and just doing the soccer program in another town with special needs, the work that you guys are doing to help children of special needs in baseball is fantastic. So congratulations to everybody else here.
And our friends at the Boy Scouts. Boy Scout Troop 489. And we have awarded them $750 towards some camping equipment. And one thing I didn't know until my son-in-law became Scoutmaster in Somerville, they go camping every month, year-round. So that's why they need new equipment all the time.
And we do thank you very much for the grant, because we do go camping once a month. In fact, our recruitment camp out is this Saturday up at DeWitt. And with the cold and the rain and the wind, things get trashed pretty rapidly. So we do, last year we bought a trailer to haul stuff also from this grant, so that was much appreciated. And our scouts benefited quite a bit by having that available. Thank you.
So this is one of the really great programs that we are very appreciative to Affinity Credit Union that they run this for us each year. It's really the dollars that the residents are spending on the rewards credit card. You still get your normal rewards, but they provide some of that funding back, and you can see some of the incredible organizations that we have in town. that through this program, we're able to provide them with some grant money to be able to provide some physical goods that they could use for their program. So I want to thank Affinity. I also want to thank the Credit Card Committee for their work. We do get a lot of requests come in. They do a wonderful job of trying to get each group some money. So thank you very much for that, and congratulations to all of you.
Kids in the front.
And if you see the check, this is how much was given out this time. We do it twice a year.
Some police. So let's do some police.
All right.
Yeah.
It's 1 and 2, right?
1 and 2, but don't
Okay.
break. We're not breaking.
Okay. What's that?
Not breaking.
We're not breaking.
We're not breaking. We're going to go right to those resolutions.
Yeah. Okay, so before we're not quite ready to break yet. We do have, with the committee's indulgence, I would like to take 2 items that are currently on our consent agenda. They're items 1 and 2, and move them forward to this point in the meeting. And those are to allow us to do the swearing in of a captain and lieutenant in our police department. So do I have the
Mayor,
have a motion to move those forward?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move consent agenda items number 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, first and a second, roll call, please.
Committeeman Lapani?
Yes.
Committeewoman McCauley?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
And Mayor Delcor.
Yes. So I'm going to ask our police liaisons to join me.
Captain.
Okay, we are going to have our new captain, Mr. Captain Mark Besser, come on up. I state your name.
I, Mark Besser,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people,
So help me God.
so help me God.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly swear
that I will impartially
that I will impartially
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of police captain
all the duties of police captain
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
No, stay here, stay here. I'd like to thank Mayor, police liaisons, and the rest of the Township Committee, Mr. Ferrera and Ms. Borick. I'm truly honored to have been chosen for this position. I want to thank my family for all their love and support. My son Jake here, my mom Connie, my beautiful wife Lily. I have my sister Dawn and Robin and her children, my Aunt Patricia and Uncle Dave, my Aunt Joanne, some close friends, Fran and Steph, and I think that's my brother behind the beard. And for those of you that do not know him, he was a former officer here, so that's what happens to you when you retire. And last, I want to thank my fellow officers in blue. I couldn't do it without you guys, both my brothers past and present. This is a tough job at times, and you have to rely on each other, whether it's personal reasons or professional reasons. And I thank you for all your support, and I just hope you know that I will be here to provide the same support that you have for me. Thank you. This is fancy. My signature? You signed so much. All right, now we just need to. I know. Well, it's the hair. The volume.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Okay, we have one more swearing in to do. Can I have Lieutenant Rick Evans come on up?
Get them together.
Yeah, you gotta come on. You gotta switch. I state your name.
I, Richard Evans,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly swear
that I will impartially
I will impartially
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of police lieutenant
all the duties of police lieutenant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Stick it in. Get blood.
I am so honored to be standing here. This is my town. I graduated here in '81. So to me, this is home. I couldn't have done it with the fellow officers that are in the back. I want you all to know that although my rank may have changed, I will not change. If you ever need anything, support in any way, I will be there, day or night. I am here to help you become better officers and the future leaders for this fine community. I want to take a moment to thank the entire committee. I've worked with them for a long time now. I've been on for 23 years. They're a great bunch of people. So again, thank you very much. It's an honor working with all of you. For my fellow officers that came in this wonderful weather to support me, it's almost as if we're having a Chiefs meeting here because I have a very good friend of mine, Chief Chris Nitti from Robbinsville, who came up. I have two of my former friends and chiefs, Chief Darren Powell and Paul Kaminsky. I even have the old director from Montgomery, Jim Curry, who showed up in this weather. I want to thank, though, my now current chief, who was sworn in just in the past few weeks, Mike McMahon. He's going to take this department to a new level. He's going to do a great job here. So again, thank you for giving me the opportunity. And last but not least, my wonderful family. My brother-in-law is here, my sister. This is my mom. I'm the oldest of 7. My beautiful daughter, Erica, Carly Rose, and my wonderful wife, who's been by my side since day one. So thank you all. I have to mention, everybody's got that one kid who is a friend of your kids. It's like your other child. Well, we have one here, Gabby. Yes.
I don't want you to get too far away.
He's not going.
I don't think you need it.
No, we're good. We can do without.
Okay. I think we're now done with our proclamations and presentations. I'd like to thank everyone that was here this evening and for their commitment to the community, and we're very honored to be able to give you your recognition tonight. I'd especially like to thank our two new members of the police leadership, Captain Besser and Lieutenant Evans. They've both been tremendous assets to the community. I know they'll continue to be that going forward in their new roles. So we're going to take a quick break. As promised, we're going to give you a chance to leave if you would like. As you can tell, our meetings are great, so if you want to stay, you can. But we'll give you a second if you want to head out. And then we'll resume in a couple of minutes.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you again to all those that were here for their recognition this evening. We appreciate all you do for the community. We're going to move on to the next portion of our agenda. We have no new business this evening, so we're going to move to public comment on new business and matters not on the agenda. If anyone has a comment they'd like to make on a matter that's not on tonight's agenda, now's your time to come forward. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to public hearings. Our first public hearing tonight is ordinance 2019-20, An ordinance amending Chapter 188 Land Use and Development, Article 5 Districts and Standards, Section 188-106, the I-1, I-2, I-3 Light Industrial Districts of the Code of the Township of Hillsborough, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. As indicated when this ordinance was introduced, it is to amend the I-1 Light Industrial Zone to create a multifamily inclusionary overlay district within the I-3 zone. This overlay district would be applied to Lot 105 and Block 58, which is located at the terminus of Campus Drive. The amendment would add multifamily residential buildings to the list of permitted uses, but only when constructed as part of an inclusionary affordable housing development. The amendment would include appropriate design controls for all such uses within the district, the overlay district. The total number of dwelling units in the overlay district would be capped at 96, with 24% of the dwelling units meeting affordability standards per the affordable housing requirements. The primary purpose of this ordinance is to incentivize construction of affordable housing units that will contribute to the township's efforts to meet its court-imposed affordable housing obligation. As we've discussed multiple times, Hillsborough, as is the case with all municipalities in the state of New Jersey, has a requirement to meet a state-mandated affordable housing obligation. We are currently in the process of negotiating our final settlement with the courts and the court master. And this project is one of the projects that will allow us to meet those obligations as part of a broader settlement that will eventually be completed. It is not yet completed, as we're still in the process of trying to continue to negotiate with the affordable housing, fair share housing, and ultimately the vicinage. So again, this is part of that affordable housing plan, and it applies to this one lot and block in this I-3 zone. May I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2019-20?
So moved, Mayor.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, is there any discussion from the dais on this agenda item? Okay. Any comments from the floor on this agenda item? Yeah.
Good evening.
Please speak into the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Please. My name is Matthew Fioravanti of the law firm of Giordano, Howard & Ciesla, counsel for Campus Associates, LLC. I'm here because we received the draft ordinance and we're requesting a very slight revision.
Okay, just
I'll
if
just
you
try
could
to-
speak into the microphone.
Sure, certainly. Requesting a slight modification to the draft ordinance, specifically Section 5D, and it has to do with the 50-foot setback from the boundary tract, the tract boundary. In the original version of the draft ordinance back in January, that was included, and it was non-objectionable, and somewhere along the way from January until the draft ordinance that was published, it was eliminated from the ordinance. We're asking that it be put back in. The reason why it's important to do that is because the concept plan for Campus Associates, if the northern boundary, northern property line is deemed a rear lot rather than a side lot, side yard, then we're going to run afoul of the setback provisions. As of now, the side yard setback is 25 feet, the front yard setback is 50 feet, and the rear yard setback is 150 feet. And under our concept plan, the proposed setback at that northern property line is 96 feet. So if it's deemed a rear yard setback, then we're not going to be in compliance. So we request that 50-foot setback from the tract boundary be put back into the ordinance, and consistent with what the understanding has been since the outset. Thank you.
Counselor, can that be done on a?
We're going to ask the governing body this evening to adopt this ordinance as drafted. We're reviewing the request, and if it's determined that we need to make an amendment, we will do so. The parties did review this ordinance multiple times before it got to this point. The ordinance before you is the one that was approved by Judge Miller.
Bill,
Okay.
Attorney Willard, can you let him?
Relax.
Thank you.
For the purposes of the record, I'm not so sure this one is on either, Pam. And
It's, just speak into it.
Is that this is the ordinance that was approved by the court, that was reviewed by all the various parties. We are reviewing the request from the proposed developer relative to a change. If there is a need for the change, we will do it by a separate ordinance rather than attempting to make a change. I'm not sure it's insubstantial, which therefore would gut the entire ordinance to start. We are asking the committee to adopt this ordinance, and then we will probably at some point in the very near future come back with a slight amendment to address the issue.
Okay. Was everyone able to hear that? Okay.
Just so the record's clear, the 50-foot setback was included in the ordinance as prepared by Mr. Bernstein's office by letter January 30th, 2019. So it originated with the committee. It was probably our firm's inadvertence going back, red lines back and forth, where those literally five words were somehow eliminated from section 5D. So it's just so I understand the committee's position, but just so the record is clear, from our position, this was always included and intended to be part of the original negotiated and settled ordinance. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
You dropped something, I'm not sure if you need that.
All those in the back, if you want to come up and sit, there's plenty of seats in the front. If you want to take a minute to do that, because if you really have a difficult time hearing, come on up and sit.
Okay, anyone else from the floor would like to comment on this ordinance? Name and address, please, for the record.
Hi, Andrea Bradley, 43 Governor's Lane, Princeton, New Jersey. I'm here tonight as a member of Temple Bethel, which is I think that's the west side of the property in question. And it is clear that this is a process that's been ongoing and that there's a lot more development already evolving, a lot more plans than we are aware of in the public. So this is the first that we've heard of it, which was the notice of this hearing tonight. So we have a lot of questions. We are a Jewish synagogue. Our parking lot is on the east side. It would be on the abutting property line. We know that there are wetlands there. We have young students at our property probably 7 days a week that we're concerned about their safety. And so we ask for things like, I saw the ordinance says that a fence may be built. We'd like some recognition that we'd like a secure boundary from this residential property, so that right now that's just open space and wood, so we feel safe there. I mean, we have our own issues, as you all know in the news, as a Jewish community. So safety and security is very important to us, the protection of our children. We're concerned about things like the ordinance provides for trash to be within 20 feet of a property line. It would be at odds with our sacred space to have trash being dumped on the Sabbath, to be interrupting our worship services. It is alarming to think that somebody could be in the top unit of a 3-story building, look directly into our glass roof, into our sacred worship space. And we don't feel that the planning committee or whoever it is that is the proponent of this ordinance has given consideration to our needs or our concerns. We understand the affordable housing issues for all municipalities. So I'm interested in how we can be involved in the discussion so that our concerns can be heard and can be incorporated at an early stage. There seems to be a concept plan already.
Yeah, so a couple things. Just appreciate your concerns and your comments. So what we're doing tonight is simply some of the amendments to the existing zoning that would make some of what we're looking at from an affordable housing perspective permissible. It is not the site plan. It is not the formal plan that would be laid out. That would have to go back to planning board and have that fully outlined and delineated for that purpose.
Can you give us some idea of what the timing is?
I don't know. It's really dependent upon the applicant, unless, David, there's...
Part of it's going to depend on the finality of the ordinance, which if we make the additional amending change, will therefore push that along further. And then at some point, they will have to come in, they cannot come in with an application until the ordinance is finalized.
So I would expect it to be over the next several months, but it can't be done as noted until the zone is actually changed. So there
Understood.
would be no site plan until then.
And as abutting property owners, will we be given notice of all of those proceedings as well?
Of course you will. Yep, anyone within 200 feet of the property line would be noticed.
Thank you.
Yes. And you should have been noticed earlier when this went to planning board as well.
I
Or is
don't
that
believe that
not
we
the case?
received notice, no.
Okay.
The first that we
I
received
apologize,
was maybe
that wasn't part of the process, my apologies.
2 weeks ago of this
Yeah.
hearing. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Any other comments from the floor?
Hi, good evening. Mary Ann Sawade.
Can you just have to speak into the mic, please? Sorry.
Yeah, get real close.
Take it off the stand, you can take it out of the...
Okay, that's good. I live at 142 Johansson Avenue. We are here today to oppose the multifamily zoning layer being considered for vote in the industrial zone that is adjacent to our properties. We have many concerns, but I will try to focus on the matter we are facing today, which is the zoning variance to allow a multifamily building to be constructed on the property behind our homes. As current taxpayers and current residents of Hillsborough, we want our voices to be heard, and we hope that our statements will lead you to the right decision to vote no to this ordinance and leave the zoning industrial as it is on the master plan. As individual property owners of Green Hills neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods, we feel we have standing to oppose this ordinance. Everyone here from Green Hills? Yes. The points that I would like to address are as follows. We have a wetlands delineation map for the property that shows this is not a suitable location to be built on. Second point I'd like to make is the decline in our property values for the existing residents that are in view of this massive development. 3, this variance does not comply with New Jersey's Smart Growth Plan. There are other available properties to consider, and I have a statement of understanding where we're at, I think, with the affordable housing requirements at this point. If someone can help me hold this. I'd like to show you the wetlands delineation map that someone had provided for us.
Now you have to speak right into the mic, so you hold that,
Yeah.
take the mic out of the stand and hold it in your left hand, or something to speak easier.
There you go.
So this map is prepared by Van Cleef Engineering Associates in 2016. It shows the property, Campus Drive, and all of the dotted lines are where they found wetlands. This entire area, and it comes down around here. I know they're proposing something in here. This area is considered upland, which is still considered wetlands. And I also found 2 other sources. On the DEP website, there is a map that shows the entire parcel completely covered in green for wetlands. So on that basis, we feel, how can anyone build on this piece of property? Thank you. We are composed of modest single-family homes with recent sales in the last 3 years in the range of $325 to $450. We are concerned with maintaining our property values. If a 3-story apartment building is built on the property, this will require clearing the land around the building site. Would be quite a lot. The trees serve as a sound barrier from 206, where there is 6 to 8 lanes of traffic. In the wintertime, when the leaves fall, the sound increases, but the trees still provide some privacy and buffer from the sound. There is a significant amount of forested wetlands on the property that cannot be built on without permit approval from the DEP. The wetlands on this property and the buffers are essential for our environmental quality. It protects our natural groundwater resources and blocks sound from Route 206. The DEP Commission must permit any work that is within 100 feet of this area. I know you can't answer this, but how much space can the developers actually build on this location? The board has reiterated that the site plan has to prove that there will be a negative water impact in the area. So I'm not going to go further with comments on the impact of flooding, although it is a concern. For me, if the trees are cleared and there is a 3-story apartment building in view from my patio, it will be impossible to sell my home at its current market value, which is about $415,000. In real estate, this is called external obsolescence, and I would really like to avoid that situation entirely. I did my due diligence when I bought my home, and it was never a consideration that such a massive residential building development would be placed in view of my private and quiet backyard. It would not be fair to the hardworking people of this community to have a reduction in their net worth because of a building that does not have to be placed there and does not belong. The New Jersey Smart Growth Plan has several principles. I would like to highlight a few of them. One is to create walkable neighborhoods. This location does not provide a safe and walkable community. It is isolated between and behind industrial buildings, and the only exit is on the massive section of Route 206 with 6 to 8 lanes in total. The buildable area is too dense and would not be a safe residential environment for any families. Another principle is to preserve critical environmental areas. This space is a critical environmental area. It is zoned on the master plan as industrial and is too dense and unsafe for a residential development. One of the Planning and Zoning Department's responsibilities is to conduct various studies to address emerging issues within the township. I would consider the demand by the state to our township to develop new properties for affordable housing a huge emerging issue. What studies have been done to explore the long-term effects of the multiple projects that have been approved and are going to be conducted and considered?
That's a great question. You know who you should ask that to, though? The Assembly and the Senate.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that are mandating the building.
Not there. There's plenty of other spaces.
Okay. Another principle of the New Jersey Smart Growth Plan is to make development decisions predictable, fair, and cost-effective. So understanding that time is money for the developer, we urge you to vote no today to the zoning variance so he can cease his spending on this project and he can focus his time and money on developments that are more aligned with the principles in the New Jersey Smart Growth Plan. To the affordable housing, since receiving the public notice regarding the adoption of the proposed ordinance to amend this industrial zone to create multifamily residential spot zoning, I have been reading everything I can find regarding the current situation the township is facing with regards to the affordable housing requirements. I have researched the town ordinances regarding the planning and development of the site. I have read the DEP guidelines for obtaining a permit to build on property that contains wetlands. I have very carefully watched and listened to the YouTube video from the October 3rd meeting, which clarified many questions I had. My understanding is that all of you, the Township Committee, are the only ones that can approve the ordinance to change the zone. One of the questions was, why would the township rezone this property without a formal application? The board answered by saying, to allow for the inclusionary affordable district, we need to be compliant with our plan. This property is a component of our plan. So I'm curious, Is this plan available on the township website for residents to view? And what other properties are included in the Hillsborough Affordable Housing Plan that the board referenced?
So there have been, I believe now, 5 projects that have been approved as part of the plan. It's not, there are 8 in total?
There are 7 interveners and a proposed intervener in this current litigation. There are also prior affordable housing projects that have been built prior to the inclusion of this litigation in 2015 pursuant to the New Jersey Supreme Court decision. The rationale for adopting the ordinance in this fashion is because in accordance with the law, the court has agreed that as part of our fairness hearing, we have to adopt the ordinance relative to allowing for this development to occur, which eliminates another intervener and another possible contest in our litigation out of the process.
Yeah. So
this is a project that ultimately the developer is going to have to prove to the planning board meets the requirements of the proposed zone, including the wetlands, the buffers, the runoff, the various tree removal issues, all of these issues. As I see counsel for the developer sitting there in the back of the tent, if you'd like to talk to him, it's him. It's his client who wants this project, not necessarily the township.
I understand that.
So that they are the ones who are going to have to meet all of your concerns, and frankly, I don't wish to, he's here tonight on behalf of the firm, and I'm sure not necessarily the person, he's not the individual who's been representing the client, but it's a person you may want to have a conversation with after this is over, if this goes forward, as to what this development means, the same for the people at Temple Bethel, because this is a project that we have discussed a long time, trying to fit this project into that site. So I'm not suggesting that this is necessarily, but we have to deal with it. It goes to our overall affordable housing obligation, and it also reduces an impact of an ongoing litigation that the developer, while they might, in theory, like to close up shop, the only shop they will close up is more money to Giordano, Halloran, and Cecil to continue to pursue this matter, because they've been pursuing this issue for all intents and purposes. This is not, as you know, and we told you with the board, it's not the first application that's come before this committee and this planning board for that site. This is actually a slightly reduced plan than the one that came before the board, I believe, approximately a decade ago for an all-affordable housing site.
Yep.
So they're not going away, and we're having to deal with it, and you people need to hold everybody to the fire.
So just to clarify a little bit on that, when we talk about interveners, that's essentially developers that are part of the litigation process to help us meet our affordable housing obligation, whether we agree to it or not. Because if we don't ultimately agree to it, the developers then have the claim to go to the courts and say, the township is not meeting their obligations. I can, and let me build what I want there. So what this allows us to do is, it's not perfect, but it allows us to mitigate some of the risks that are out there, and at least control some of the process that I can assure you there will be no control over unless we have a conforming plan in front of the courts in the next couple of months.
Okay, thank you. I also had the question, was this plan for the affordable housing plan, was it determined only by property owners who have indicated they can provide a development that will allow Hillsborough to meet their obligations? Or does Hillsborough have a committee or person to actually evaluate the overall affordable housing plan to explore what locations projects would be least burdensome on current residents and the master plan?
The answer to that is yes. We do. Obviously, we have our council, we have our planner, we have an affordable housing consultant that works with us on that to help us evaluate which projects make the most sense and where we can go to help with that. But at the end of the day, other than one, we don't own the properties as a municipality. So we have one property that we own, known as the Sherman Tract, that we have approved an affordable, 100% affordable obligation there. But other than that, it is property that's owned by others, not the township, that come and say, we can do an inclusionary project here that will help the township meet their affordable obligation. And it's the committee, the planning board, our professionals that help us sort through all that and figure out what's the best alternatives to help us meet that obligation. And if it's not here, then we don't have a compliant plan.
Okay. We feel that, we do have a master plan, and I know things are subject to change, but this property was zoned I-3 for a reason at the time. The mission of the Department of Planning and Zoning is to plan for a healthy, vibrant community with a sustainable balance of growth and development. They're also responsible for the community's long-range planning efforts, including keeping the master plan current and conducting various studies to address emerging issues within the township. Have there been studies conducted to determine if this growth and development is sustainable? I don't think it is. The school system and Board of Ed alone are in turmoil, and all of the schools are at a capacity, full capacity, with less teachers and less funding. I had the pleasure of meeting Lisa Antunes from the Board of Ed at Sunnymead's HSA meeting yesterday, who was there to discuss a proposed bond referendum that desperately needs to be passed on December 10th in order to maintain and improve the systems of the existing and aging buildings and schools. We will undoubtedly need more and more money to expand our schools and build more school facilities once all of these developments are built. I did do a search for some available properties that I thought would be also suitable to perhaps add to the affordable housing plan. There are 2 properties currently on the market in residential zones I found would be better suited for this project, and that follow many of the principles of the Smart Growth Plan. I'm sure there are others that may not be on the market currently, but these 2 owners are willing to sell their properties. What would it take to add these to the affordable housing plan? I'm not sure how that works. As we know, plans can be modified, just like what you are proposing to do with the master plan in changing the use of the property in question to add the multifamily use. I would think that properties that are already in a residential zone would be more conducive to add an inclusionary multifamily overlay district. The properties have much more space to add buffers from existing residential neighborhoods and provide existing walkability to stores, restaurants, and the like. The 2 properties are 283 South Branch Road, 9.6 acres, currently zoned residential with public utilities, walkable to the municipal building, restaurants, parks, 775. And 254 Emerald Road has 68 acres, currently zoned residential, agricultural, price recently reduced to $850, public transportation, and it's walkable. I have read many articles.
Would you like to buy them and propose a plan for us? We'd be happy to entertain that if you would.
To give the listings to the developer's attorney over there.
Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to build on those. Those are private properties.
I'm
So,
mentioning just for
I understand, but I know you're trying to be a little cheeky, but the reality is that
I'm dead serious.
well, and I am too. If you would like to do that, then please have a developer that will put a plan together to do that. I can't work on a hypothetical that there's a property available when we have to have an obligation to put in place. And I understand your concern, but frankly, that's not something we can work with, because we don't own those properties. We can't build on them.
Right, and you don't own any of the other properties too in the affordable plan, but
No,
they're
we do.
working with
We own-
developers, right?
We own one, the Sherman property that was
Okay.
previously mentioned.
But not the one in question. So this
Correct.
one's privately owned as well, and they're working with a developer. So just making a point.
Quite honestly, this is round 2. Round 3 is yet to come. There's quite a good chance that that property, or round 3, round 4 yet to come, could be developed again. So this is not the end of this. This is still, just gets us to 2020, then it's going to start, 2025, excuse me, then it's going to start over again, unless the laws are changed. So maybe not today, tomorrow, it's all coming. So, we can only do what is put in front of us within the time constraint that the court gives us. Otherwise, as the mayor said, that the intervener has the right to just go ransack and do whatever they want, and which we're trying to prevent.
I understand. You're trying to maintain control, which I had noted here. I know that you're still in litigation with the state to settle on the number of required units. The last number that was repealed, if that's the right word, was 475. So you're still in good faith working towards that number?
That was round two. Yeah, that was 8 years ago.
Okay, I only had 2
Yeah.
weeks.
We're trying to settle round three. What's that?
Over 20 years ago.
Is that when it was?
Well, yeah, but when we announced our 475 was back in, around 2010.
This round,
Yeah.
for the purposes of the record, covers 1998 to 2025
Right.
because it has taken the courts and the legislature nearly 20 years to decide they couldn't decide.
So,
The court basically told us in 2015, us and every other municipality in this state, that we have an obligation, we need to meet it, and we need to meet it now. Judge Jacobson down in Mercer County has affirmed what are decisions that have already been affirmed in several other places. It's the one most reported out of West Windsor and Lawrenceville, that not only, and the Supreme Court has also concurred that not only do you have to address the current need, you have to address the nearly 20-year-old need that wasn't addressed between 1998 and 2025, which actually Hillsborough has been doing all along. So one of the reasons why we are in better shape than most is because we've continued to address those issues. We don't pick where these properties go. I'll speak for the committee. If the committee had its druthers, there wouldn't be any property selected in this township for more affordable housing, because we understand what the impact is on children, on the infrastructure. I have had these conversations, Mr. Ferrara has had these conversations, Mr. Maskey and the committee, with the special master, with Judge Miller, with Fair Share Housing, with all the interveners, with everybody for the last 4 years. And they nod and go, that's nice, and oh, by the way, we'd still like to build. So we haven't encouraged anybody to build. We've tried to discourage. We have actually done something in this township that no other town that I'm aware of in the state has done. We've actually gotten people to build more affordable housing on their sites in order to reduce the number of properties that are impacted. We have properties that have been approved that are not within the interveners. We are doing everything we can to try to spread this around, to try to limit the impact, to try to deal with the building on it. Nothing is perfect. This site is far from perfect. We acknowledge that. But the fact is, folks, we're dealing with what we have to deal with, and the court, as the mayor indicated, if we do not ultimately have a compliant plan, and the court rejects our immunity, not only are we open to this developer, we are open to every other developer in town who we have not settled with, and every other developer in town who has a piece of property, including possibly the two you just mentioned, who are going to want to build thousands and thousands and thousands of units of housing, all in the name of building a handful of affordable housing. This committee has done a lot, including taking at least another 400 affordable housing units off the map when they bought the Hillsborough Properties site. The committee has done a lot of things. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We understand, we indicated this when all of you were at the planning board a couple of weeks ago. This is not a perfect site, but no site is perfect. And it's unfortunate. And one, I would have conversations with the developer to see what they're willing to do relative to your concerns in general if the zoning passes. You're going to get an opportunity if the zoning passes in order to deal with the plan. And members of the committee have said this countless times, and I apologize for repeating it. The reason why the court stepped in 2015 is the legislature wouldn't. The legislature still hasn't. They talk about it, they mumble about it, but they won't do anything about it. And frankly, until they do something about it, this committee and every other governing body is going to have to deal with the issues we're dealing with tonight.
that's where we are. I know it's not what you want to hear, but that's the reality of the matter that we're dealing with. And if we don't deal with this and become compliant, I can assure you what will come will be infinitely worse.
So by not approving, say, tonight's ordinance, you would be sued?
We won't have the ability to get to a compliant plan. and that will open us up. Then we'll lose our immunity. So we essentially are immune from litigation from developers as we try to negotiate in good faith with the courts and with fair share the ability to put our plan in place. That currently expires on December 15th, sorry, December 15th.
Okay.
So beyond that period, there's no guarantees that we're not open up to litigation then if we don't have a plan in place. That's the date we're working towards at this point.
Is Hillsborough Township being court-ordered to rezone this property?
Yes.
Yes.
Courts approved the zoning. This is not a zoning that the Township Committee went, this was approved by Judge Miller as part of as part of the litigation that is currently ongoing in Superior Court.
And just, Mary Ann, sorry, Mayor, if I may. This whole process is mandated by the court system. We didn't select the process. Affordable housing's been around for many, many years before us. 1975 it started. And it's come to fruition in a lot of places because they used to be able to transfer units from one place to the next. They got rid of that at the state level. So it's a requirement on every township in New Jersey.
Right.
And it is mandated, this process is mandated by the court system.
And because this affordable housing plan was submitted to the courts, I'm assuming, and that's part of what it's being litigated, because these developers are part of that litigation.
Yeah.
So they know exactly which properties have been submitted, they've been approved, they're saying you must make these available and zone them properly so that they can be developed?
No, ma'am, the answer is they have sued the township. They have sought what is known as intervenor status. What intervenor status is, Fair Share Housing has intervenor status in every litigation in the state. In addition to that, developers can seek to have intervention status, which as the mayor has indicated is basically, I am ready, willing, and able to build some of your affordable housing obligation on our site, of which we also get to build market rate housing unless it's an all affordable housing site, and the only one that's doing an all affordable housing site is actually the township. Therefore, they are parties to this litigation, and this property has been a party to this litigation since the day it was since the original lawsuit was filed in 2015. We didn't select who went in. They put themselves in the mix. They made themselves part of the litigation. They made themselves part of the process. Part of the process to try to resolve these issues is to deal with the 7 interveners, as the mayor indicated earlier, that we're dealing with, of which this is one. Anybody doesn't get necessarily what they want, and we don't necessarily have a compliant plan, we get a whole nother round of litigation separate and apart. This may yet go through a whole round of litigation depending on what the application does in terms of the planning board, when and if it's ever heard by the planning board. This is a step in the process.
And just so we're clear, Fair Share Housing is essentially an advocacy group that has essentially been granted intervenor status. So they wield incredible power that has been granted by no legislative body in the state of New Jersey. So that's where I say, and I don't mean to be, we're not trying to pass the buck, but the reality is the legislature has failed to act, and we're reacting to it because we have no choice but to complete our state mandated process. And the legislature could very easily just say, here is the requirements that we're going to place on each municipality, and it's not going to be as onerous as we're currently going through with the courts and with Fair Share. And for whatever reason, they refuse to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Carol Savage. My mother lives at 140 Johansson. I'm a part owner of her house. I don't want to talk about affordable housing. My mother has lived there for 48 years. They've never been able to develop the property. I don't understand why there's a consideration to develop with housing in wetlands. That's the question I have.
So the reality is, if the DEP does not grant them the permits to do it, they will not be able to do the project. We don't disagree with you on that. DEP is the body that will determine what can be built and where it can be built on this site. And if it's deemed that there are wetlands that are unbuildable, they will not grant the permits and will not be able to build. But that will be part of the site plan, not this zoning requirement.
Okay, but I thought you said a comment that the zoning had to be changed, that we were forced to change the zoning.
The zoning has to be changed to be able to accommodate the housing plan that we're trying to do here. But when the site plan is presented to the planning board, as part of that approval, they will have to have all of their regulatory approvals. DEP, the DNR Canal Commission,
Somerset County?
what's that?
Somerset County.
Somerset County, Planning Board, all of those bodies will have to also approve the plan that's presented forward. We can't tell you what can or can't be built there because we don't have a formal engineered plan that will tell you exactly
Okay,
where
but I guess
things are going to be built.
My understanding was that initially, that area was never zoned for housing because of the fact that it was wetlands.
No, it's just zoned industrial at this point.
Okay,
It's
so
not
it's
that it's,
industrial. Maybe it was industrial for a reason,
No.
because it wouldn't be suitable.
well, it's still buildable if it's industrial, it's just not
Well,
residential.
One thing I'm coming away with, and I don't know who you are, Eric.
It's our council.
I didn't like the comment when you said "you people." I just took
I
offense to that, so I'm
apologize
sorry.
that you thought that.
I walked in here, I live in Metuchen, and I was so thrilled how well your meeting is attended and the wonderful proclamations that you had. But I feel like we're fighting against our own committeemen. It doesn't make sense to me that these are longtime residents. They live in homes. Maybe their homes aren't $1 million or $700,000 like some of you live in. But these
Ma'am, that's
homes
not
mean a
fair.
lot to us.
That's not fair. Please, I'm not going to
I feel
take.
like we're
that-
looked
that-
upon like we don't have an issue.
I don't-
My mother's property backs there, she's gonna have water all over her backyard.
Is your sense from the conversation we've had that we're not sympathetic to what?
Yes,
I'm sorry,
definitely how I'm
ma'am.
feeling.
Then,
I'm feeling that I am here in a town that has this wonderful reputation, but sitting here, I feel, I understand the pressures for affordable housing, but I
Well, you-
feel
you-
like there's
I
not a
don't-
lot of understanding of what's is very emotional to people here. And I don't think there's a feeling like, I haven't heard anybody say, we understand, we know what your concerns are, there are more steps to this. I mean, what I'm hearing is, there are a lot more steps to it. It's not a done deal. But I don't feel that there's an openness here to like really acknowledge that we have some issues and we're coming to our elected officials that we think should have more sympathy for us. And I'm not feeling that.
Ma'am, if I may address you, Mayor. We can clearly say that we have entire sympathy. The reason most of us are quiet is because the mayor runs the meeting in this town. That's usually how the head of the meetings go. Our council is here. We are here to hear you. I can guarantee you, behind closed doors, I'm a psychomaniac when it comes to this kind of, I'm a real estate agent. I know there are realtors in the audience. Mary Ann and I work together. I know how passionate she is about her neighborhood. And you're dead right. We are here to serve the residents. And it's easy to come to the Township Committee meeting and address the Town Council on this when it clearly is not our idea to begin with. If you know anything about affordable housing, it is mandated by the state. I don't know how else to clarify that clearly. We had to find places. It's not our job as a Township Committee to be realtors and go out and seek out properties. The actual behavior is for the interveners to address us. It is court mandated for us to follow that process. And if we don't have interveners, we're in more trouble. So we have taken a lot of things, and we are quite passionate about the way our town is planned. We have a planner here who is quite passionate as well. We do try to follow the rules and regulations of our master plan on a day-to-day basis. But when there's something is court mandated from the state, quite honestly, it ties our hands behind our back.
But I understand that. I guess the key point I don't get is if an area is zoned industrial, and maybe the developer, I need to ask him why he decided to develop where it's zoned industrial, right? Normally you come in and you develop where the kind of development you want can be built. But I think they're taking advantage of legislation and saying, hey, I'd like to use this site, I'll force you to change it. So I do understand the situation that you're in.
They don't care.
You said it perfectly. You just said that's exactly how it works.
Yeah, you're right.
The zoning has to change to accommodate the inclusionary
I
jurisdiction.
understand, because I thought the whole reason for zoning is that towns look at their community, look at the property, the locations, and then they determine that. And industrial is not close to housing. I mean, it was, I don't know how the other.
You are correct, 100%, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, like, right,
So,
just to really conceptualize this, there are properties in the state of New Jersey right now, let's leave Hillsborough and talk about some other properties, in the Highlands. The Highlands is a pristine area that has been identified by Governor McGreevey when he was governor, protected to make sure the watershed there was protected so that, I think it was like 3 million individual residents have access to clean water in the state. I mean, they stopped building in that entire area. Then this affordable housing ruling came down in 2015, and they are literally building high-density housing on top of aquifers that need to be protected with no regard to any of the environmental concerns.
Well, that
The-
really
the
concerns me,
state-
because doesn't DEP have something to say about that?
They absolutely do. And the courts overruled them, and I'm sure Eric could talk more about this if we really wanted to, but I don't want to bore any more of you about this, is the fact that there has been numerous times that DEP has just turned a blind eye in the court system to environmental concerns. It's disgusting, it's wrong, and it continues to happen. The best thing that can happen for this property is that DEP says, you know what? It's a Category 1 waterway, there's wetlands, and you know what? We found the endangered bog turtle also on the property. Those are the best things. So if you have any bog turtles, please put it on that property right now, and find all the other properties in Hillsborough and put them on there too. But that's a reality right now, is that the court system does
Well,
not
that's what I
care.
never understand, because I felt like you were letting it happen.
oh, no.
I'm not sure how many times I've said mandate, but mandate is mandate, yeah.
I get you, no, I
Yeah,
understand. So it sounds like it's a long process.
And what I can strongly encourage, and I apologize, Mayor, I don't mean to speak right now, but what I can strongly encourage every single resident to do is you call your state legislator and you say to them, we want to stop the affordable housing mandate. You call the governor, call the Speaker of the Assembly, call the Senate President, and say, we need legislative help.
Yeah.
You know, and if they're not going to help in regards to giving us immunity from being forced to build, at the original, there was talk of building 2,500 affordable housing units, which, if you really want to be, take that and extrapolate that out, that's like 10,000 units that have to be built, because there's 25 set aside, 20 to 30 set aside for affordable housing. But just to say, that many units that are required to be built under court order, with no regard for infrastructure, no extra money for the state for infrastructure, no extra money for our schools. In fact, we were cut for money for schools. There's just no regard for it. And there's no planning besides to say from a court, an arbitrary court, come down and say, you know what, you should build more affordable housing. And the reason they say we have to build more affordable housing is because we have vacant land. That's why. So for all the years that Hillsborough has gone out of the way and planned to say, you know what, we don't want more building, they say, you know what, you have vacant land that was a farm, you should be able to build something on that. There's trees. I mean, there was a point when, and Eric can talk about this, is that when they went through and they were identifying properties that should be built, they took into account for cemeteries, medians, that should be considered as vacant land. Think about that. A cemetery, they're saying, well, that's your vacant land. But that should be included in your numbers. It is completely asinine, and I can't stress enough for every person in this room to call the legislature and say, help. They might not, but I can still beg you to do it. And especially, you don't live in Hillsborough, but I know you have an interest. Call your legislators in Metuchen, too. You have great legislators that represent Metuchen, Edison, that area. Reach out to them and say, help us, too. So, please.
Same boat.
Sorry, Mayor.
Okay.
I'll be fast and orderly.
That's okay.
Take
Keith
time.
Christopher, 2033 Brooks Boulevard.
Just speak into the microphone,
Sorry,
please.
Keith Christopher, 2033 Brooks Boulevard. I'm actually a police officer in a faraway town. One of my guys got promoted tonight in a similar ceremony to what you had. But I'm here instead because now I'm looking at a second development within a mile of my house. You have this one and then the one on Camp Plain across from Klein Recycling. I watched the video of the meeting you did.
The town hall.
Town hall, very informative.
Thank you.
I had recalled council saying a few times that you're working to try to spread the burden out. But yet I'm looking at two now within walking distance of my house. From what I can gather from the other properties, pretty much everything's along 206 or near Amwell. Is that correct?
Not all, but a
I
good
know that
majority of them.
Royce Brook,
Yep.
the Toll Brothers thing out there.
A good majority, yep. But you have a bunch on 206, you have one on Amwell.
So, from what I'm gathering is, we'd like to spread the burden, but it doesn't sound like with this intervenor system and the court rulings, the only power you have really is to pass or rezone so that you at least have some control over the property. Basically, the developer's going to pick wherever they want.
Well,
The residents and the planning boards or really has very little say, if I'm following correctly.
Yeah, so in the big picture, yes. I mean, our ability to pick the sites, for lack of a better term, is pretty limited. It's the sites where someone owns the property and they're willing to, or they've got a developer that's willing to build on that, and that they can build something that will be inclusionary, that will help us towards our affordable housing obligations. So we can't necessarily drive where that is. It's these interveners or property owners that have developers that are willing to help us with that plan.
And it's
So
got to have
there's very
sewers.
little we can do.
Yeah, and it's got to have sewers, yes.
It needs to have sewers, so that eliminates our mountain area basically, right? Because there's no sewers up in the mountains, so that's why you see everything being clustered along the Route 206 Amwell corridor, because there's
Because you need
access to
you need
water.
Is there anything that could be done to spread it, that we can do, or is this, or we just have
Well,
to mercy of?
it is spread. I mean, we do have those 8 projects are throughout the municipality. You're right, that in your particular, yeah, you got 2 relatively close there.
Yeah.
But the reality is that they are fairly spread out throughout the municipality.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Lavranchuk. I live at 12 Camden Road, but I'm a longtime member of Temple Bethel on the adjoining property. If you go there on a night like tonight, you're going to see that that land is not just wetlands, it's totally saturated and probably flooded right now. You have an intervener who would develop on this property, but the project that they proposed, 96 units on probably 5 acres that's not considered wetlands. Can you put the map back up that was the satellite image of the overhead view that was on the screen earlier?
That was,
That satellite view?
yeah, that's not the right map. I apologize, that wasn't.
Well, there was a picture of the lot, and there was a shaded area that was lighter than the rest. That is approximately all the area that's not considered wetlands by the Department of the Interior.
Yep.
If you go to their site, you'll see the map, and it's a constantly saturated parcel.
Yeah, so
This is the study from Van Cleef, which is a little bit at odds with the Department of the Interior map that's current. But this is a project that an intervener would come in, they would submit their site plan, it would be denied by DEP maybe, because sometimes, as Mr. Thompson said, they just ignore it.
That's true.
But in that case, it would cause, water displacement to the adjacent properties. We're concerned about that from Campus Drives, Doctor's Care, Temple Bethel, the school that's just north of there.
And I apologize to cut you off. I just want to say, the environmentally sensitive areas that have been ignored by DEP have not always been wetlands. It had to do more with slope and some of those environmental concerns. However, I have seen it where they've, in my opinion, turned a blind eye to these projects. But when I was talking about that one specific project, I think it had to do more with slope and had to do with some other environmental, like endangered species, more so than wetlands for that specific project I was talking about, just to be clear.
So in the last...
I didn't want to confuse.
Yeah.
Okay. In the last 2 decades, we've experienced several storms that are 100-year or 500-year storms. That area is completely flooded, closed 206, closed all the neighboring areas as well. Now we're going to take away some of the area that absorbs some of that runoff water and make the problem even worse. So in considering this plan, or this change in zoning, we'll end up with a change in zoning that is essentially useless unless we create more water problems for ourselves in that same area and suffer.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, and when you look at what we're doing here today is the zoning, what could go there. Again, it's going to require those approvals in order to move forward with a site plan when that site plan is done. As part of the site plan It's going to delineate what is wetlands and not buildable, what DEP will allow them to do, and also address runoff. Now, look, we understand it's not just that area. We have an issue with the types of soils we have in Hillsborough, that we have some flooding issues on our major roads, but every project that gets engineered has to meet the DEP standards. It says it will create a scenario where the runoff off of the subject property is no worse than it is today after the development. So whether that's, the detention basin type of system that they use to collect runoff, whether they do it with some other type of swales or buffering or whatever mechanisms they come in place to ensure that there's not runoff that's greater than what it is today, that's the DEP standard. That's what that's what it has to be engineered to. So it won't be built to be worse. But
the burden's on them also to prove
the burden's on them
They have
to do the engineering to show that.
But somehow this committee considers that a viable part of the compliance plan with the affordable housing quota, right?
As part of the planning board process.
Yes,
it doesn't seem like a good option just on its face when you look at the wetlands that are there and the available space to put 96 units, probably 150 cars, buses coming in and out for school. It just doesn't seem like the best option, and I urge the committee to vote against this ordinance to change the zoning.
Thank you.
My name is John Tatunjan. I live at 150 Johansson Ave. I've lived there 30 years. 3 children, brought them up to the school district. And I'm kind of confused, because you do have the power to vote this down tonight. Because, yes, the state's threatening you, and I get it. You're backed up into a corner, and this ain't going to stop it anyway. You made it clear. These 96 or whatever houses you put in, they're going to keep coming at you. So you're going to have to fight them eventually anyway. You have a choice here. You're going to go with the builder, Mr. Weiss, who built Cobo in Somerville, and we know what that looks like. It looks like a prison. They're going to build it here, and let's call it what it is. He knows this isn't a piece of property. It's between where the Raritan River...
I need you to please speak into the microphone.
It's between where the Raritan River floods, at the end of our block, which we can't get out of our block every 5 years, because Kimberly overflows onto Dukes. It's sandwiched between that, 206, our complex, and wetlands. And he's going to dump a 3-story building there. And you know what's going to happen? He's going to dump a 3-story building there because he's in striking distance of Somerville, the train station. That's where the value is. He's within 1 mile, 1.5 miles. So we're going to pay for all the students to go to school. They're going to go to the train station, and they're going to advertise this as getting a direct line to the city one day. And they're all going to, where they're going to go to shop? Just like most of us go to shop in Somerville. To go shopping, to go downtown. You see how they're building Somerville? It's just not a good deal for Hillsborough. It's a horrible deal for Hillsborough. And at the end of the day, if you vote no, and I really hope you do, you're sending a message not only to the state, but to everyone here. Our biggest asset is our homes. The lawyer back here, I don't blame him. It's business. For them, afterwards, they're going to write off and say, did you win or did you lose? Oh, they actually voted no. I can't believe they voted no. Hillsborough stands strong. Me and my wife stayed here 30 years, and often we say, why don't we move out of the state? Why don't we move out of Hillsborough? And I said, you know what? Hillsborough's done a great job. Our taxes have been reasonable. And this has come up before. And one thing all our neighbors say, you fought it back then. Nothing has changed from a decade ago. The same language that you're saying now, the state threatened them then. And they stood up, and the zoning board, I remember very well, the zoning board said, we're probably going to get sued. We don't care. Because we fight for you. Because for 30 years, some people more so, some people less, we've been paying, and when you come as politicians, you come door to door, you ring the doorbell. A few of you have expressed, what's your concerns? I've said that. I said, my main concern is one day I get 4 feet of water coming through my house, and my biggest asset is gone. And The politicians that come say, we won't allow that. And I'm sure if you stood at my door before you got voted in, and I said, if one day they're going to put a 3-story building plot back there between wetlands, between where it floods, between a nice residential neighborhood, you probably would say, we'll do everything I can, everything I could possibly can. What you can do tonight is please, for us, our anxiety, our value of our homes, vote this down. Let the Weiss and the corporation say this is light industrial. Let them fight it. They might not. This might be one obstacle that they don't want to fight. Where are they going to go? Just like one of my neighbors said, all the other opportunities they have to build. Why are they building here? Because they know it's their best sale. It's the striking distance of that train station in Somerville. I look at Weiss Properties. That's where he's building. He does not care about Hillsborough. He will be done. He will build this thing as quick as he can. He will do whatever he can to get those buildings up. He will leave it to property management. He will lease, and he will be gone to his next property. And all of us will have to suffer for years to come. So that's my say.
Thank you.
Evening. Fred Bauer, 130 Johansson Avenue in Hillsborough. We're talking about water displacement in the wetlands. There's going to be a huge amount of impervious coverage that's being taken away. Okay. Right now, the drainage district goes behind all of our house on Johansson Avenue. Okay. It floods. It absolutely floods. I've had water to my back of my house sunroom. I know you said the water will be will be redirected and whatnot, but when you take away impervious coverage, when you need 200 parking spaces, 2 per apartment, correct? When you build a big 3-story building, you're taking away huge amounts of impervious. Now each home, you have to have a certain amount of impervious, am I correct or not? You can't build on it, right? Everybody's house, everywhere.
Correct.
Okay, that's in place for a reason. When you're taking away all that impervious where the wetlands are, it's going to go somewhere. I live right behind the new daycare was built maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. In a hard rain, I watch the water run off of their back property right into that drainage ditch. And everybody that lives on Johansson suffers from that. Now imagine, that's a little tiny piece of property. Maybe it's 100 feet wide, okay? Now putting this huge building there is going to take away so much impervious coverage, that's going to be a huge problem. You're going to get water runoff. You're going to get displacement. There's no way around it. That's why there's impervious ordinances. And us living back there are going to suffer directly from it. Guaranteed. And if it had rained hard in the last 2 weeks, when we were notified for this meeting, I certainly would have took a video of the daycare for you, and I would have brought it into you. Stupid me over the last few years. Okay, but it's going to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I could just say one thing, it is zoned industrial, right? We all agree with that? Do you know what the impervious coverage ratio for industrial is versus residential?
I understand.
So the impervious is actually, if by chance this would be shot down, and tomorrow a guy comes in and wants to build an industrial site back there at the height requirement and minimum, which is 35 feet, and the impervious, which I think is 75%, which is more than what probably this project would be. And they don't need to come for us for a variance. They could come in tomorrow and build it. So, well, my point is, we can't find it because it's zoned for that, like you're saying, industrial. So you have to understand that this project that may or may not approve, and it has to be built within the wetlands, within the constraints of the site. But the impervious, just to your argument, would probably be better with this proposed project than what is now allowed. Well, I'm just bringing that out because I'm not sure if anybody else here knows what the ratio is, okay? Ma'am?
Danielle Sharino, I'm from 101 Kimberly Road. I'm one of the houses that we get flooded. During Hurricane Irene, I had 7 feet of water in my house. We put something like this in back of our development that is more water for runoff. I know you say that there's going to be a drainage ditch. I can tell you before Bound Brook put their floodgates in, we were told floodgates is going to go in. It's not going to affect us. I've been told by people who are in the know, I'm not going to name anyone, specifically, yes, Bound Brook shutting their floodgates is what gave us 7 feet of water during Irene, because the water backs up. So if you're going to tell me that there's going to be something put in place to help this water runoff, what are my guarantees? Because in the time since Irene, FEMA then redid flood maps. Our insurance went through the roof. My house is unsellable. Our township was wonderful, and they revalued our houses so that our taxes went down, which is wonderful, but I'm still stuck in a house that I cannot sell. It is literally unsellable. I've had 2 people on my street that put their house up for sale and ended up renting it and moving because they couldn't sell it. I had another neighbor who had her house on the market for 2 years. She was able to finally sell it after 2 years. Lucky her. I have 2 kids in my house. I cannot have my house up on the market for 2 years and keep my house in the order that you need in order to be able to sell it.
Okay, we
Not
stick to
possible.
the ordinance,
Yeah.
Mayor.
So we've gone to the town to try to get help for actual flood mitigation to try to help us. Everything that has been suggested, we've been turned down. We are open to suggestions in our neighborhood. We're open to help. This is the complete opposite of help. We're just asking for you to stand up for us. We vote for you. I understand your hands are tied. I understand that the state is going to come and sue you. So fight them. Fight them for us. We put you in office. Do something to help us as your township people. Please.
Thank you.
Yeah, stick to the ordinance there, right?
Good evening. Kim Bandola, 132 Johansson. I spoke at the zoning meeting as well, where this was approved to come to this committee. And I just want to remind this committee that back in 2008, when they tried to put residential building back there, 88 units, this is more units this time around, the committee voted it down. Some of the reasons the board voted it down was the board was not convinced the tenants of the proposed apartments, particularly children, would be sufficiently safe because of the proximity to a major high-speed, multi-lane highway. The lack of alternative access to and from the property and lack of recreation and or other amenities without transversing Route 206. The board's concerned the neighboring properties could be negatively impacted by the relief requested since the neighboring properties are in a flood zone. The board is concerned about the impact of the increased sanitary sewer problems. The board believes the proximity of large areas of wetlands may not be a healthy environment for residential use. The board is not satisfied that the property is an appropriate site for affordable housing. The applicant has not shown sufficient evidence to substantiate the need of relief pursuant. And if approved, it would alter the general character of the neighborhood and would be directly contrary to the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. This was from your meeting, 2008. Just for the record, that is why you voted it down at that time. Asking again for you to consider voting it down this time.
Thank you. That was a specific app. Any other comments from the floor?
Hello, my name is Colleen Schwartz, and I live on Taylor Avenue. I'm right by my neighbors in Johansson that will be directly impacted by this. I was at the zoning meeting where the zoning was changed to make it okay for residential. I realize that right now that I have so many things going on in my head right now, but I realize that it has been currently, since I've lived there for 20 years, has been light industrial. Has it been the same owner the entire time that nothing's been there? I'm just curious.
I don't know. And
I'm just
yeah,
wondering,
I
has
don't know.
anybody ever tried to buy it for industrial?
I'm not sure, but honestly, I'm not sure it's,
It is pertinent, because
It's not.
if nobody wanted it even for industrial
Yeah.
purposes, why would anybody want to live there? So that's my point.
I understand.
Are they getting a very cheap deal?
But
I
it's-
mean, I would imagine that they would if it's not that,
cheap deal meaning what? Sorry.
like a good buy, of course, like the buyers. whoever's buying
We have no
it.
idea. That's a separately,
Okay, so
that's a separate transaction that we have no part of whatsoever.
All right. I was at that meeting, whatever it was, 11 years ago, and there was a gentleman from our neighborhood, Mr. Jameson, who actually had been the mayor. He'd been on the township committee. He'd lived there his whole entire life, and he gave a very impassionate speech at that time, which actually made what Kim said, the town, you guys, I wish he was here right now. He passed away this past August. And he basically went on to say how, bottom line is, he gave a really nice long speech, but bottom line was it was not a place for people, Hillsborough people, and that's what they would become who lived there, to live. It wasn't all the things that Kim just mentioned, why the board at that time had voted it down. And I know there's the impact of getting sued. I don't think anyone's going to jail or anything like that, which God forbid, but it would be great if you could not pass it, right? And I'm not just saying it because, but there's a lot of flood issues. What is mind-boggling to me is how something can be proposed without having infrastructure involved. Like, how do they get away, and I'm just making a statement now, how do they get away with saying, oh, we're going to build this, but we don't have to worry about your schools, and how we take that? Like, why wouldn't there be something built in, like, okay, you're going to probably impact this many children into our school, you're going to have to give us this amount of money, or this amount of tax, or whatever it may be. I mean, those people that rent are not going to be paying tax, right? I don't believe renters that rent pay tax.
Property
right?
owner pays the tax.
Property owners, right?
Yeah.
So the property owner, I don't know how much they're going to be paying on all those units. Will that help our town? Will that hurt our town? So I just want to make the statement, if there's other things obviously to think about, it was voted down as just not a place suitable for Hillsborough residents to live, and I hope you take that into consideration.
Okay.
And be there if we get flooded.
I just can't let you get away. There's one thing I can't let go. I'm sorry,
What?
because we're talking civil litigation. There is, I can assure you that we're not going to jail, and I don't want that sitting out there, because this is not criminal activity. No, with all due respect, we all live in this town. We all have our reputations that are pretty important to us. So I just don't want to leave that as hanging out there. With all due respect, I'm sorry, I can't.
No.
Okay.
But you were saying that you were going to get sued and all that stuff, and I.
The township will be sued, and here's what will happen if we get sued, and I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive. If we get sued, the developers will control what they build. So you don't like the 3-story? They'll propose a 5-story with 150 units there. And the courts will say, if you can help them meet their affordable housing obligation, go for it.
But being on this side, I guess I can say, well then, why fight any of it? Like, if that's just going to be the end result,
But
you
we
know what
do-
I mean? Like, if they're just going to do what they want to do.
Because the process, from our perspective, and I'll give you sort of the notion that we're not sympathetic to what you guys are going through and how this may impact you is frankly, it's something we don't believe in. We're all part of this community, and we're sympathetic to everything that happens there. We devote our time to help do things that are the right thing to do in town.
I understand that.
What we are trying to do is best manage the situation in a way that will have the least amount of impact. We could say, you know what, we're not interested in doing any of it, let the courts go run wild, but that's irresponsible on our behalf. It is.
But I guess your guys are the only people we have to, besides the legislators, and, you call them and you write letters, whatever, but, so I appreciate you hearing us, but it's kind of, you feel defeated, like if there's nothing you can do for us because your hands are tied, they can just end up doing whatever they want. It's, you know, what, can they make it all affordable housing and then just knock out everything at once? Like, if they're gonna build it, is that even an option?
And that's an even more angering thing, because they absolutely could, but then they don't make money on their properties. So the developer, even by the court standard, has to make money. So that's why they get these egregious set-asides of only 24%, and not going up to set-asides that should be 40, 50%, because they go to the courts and they say, poor developer, help us. We can't build unless we make this much money.
Well, it's
And
great
it
that
is-
you guys did it, though.
the system-
You guys did 100%.
We did 100% affordable by owning the property, cutting down the costs, allowing them to do a payment in lieu of taxes, which affects everybody, and is another thing that's wrong with our entire state and the system with affordable housing. I mean, we can go on, and I've had the pleasure of sitting up here for 8 years now, and I can tell you, every single year, there's a new egregious wrinkle when it comes to affordable housing. I was born and raised here. The town that I was born into is changed from a town of 18,000 residents, and now we're at 41,000 approximately, right? And if the affordable housing numbers, if fair share housing got their way, when I tell you that they want 10,000 more units in Hillsborough, it is not a joke. That is the number that, using their set-asides, what they believe in. Think about that, the change to infrastructure. These aren't made-up numbers. This is what they are trying to foist on us. And there is, I'm telling you, when the state turns a blind eye, and when you're right, we're the ones in front of you, and you're absolutely right.
You know.
I will tell you right now, and I can speak for the mayor unequivocally on this, if the governor of New Jersey, or if the legislature passes legislation right now that says you have a builder's moratorium, and that you are not required to build affordable housing, we will adopt that tomorrow. We will hold a special session, put out a 48-hour notice to hold a special session and adopt that. So I encourage you to make every single phone, we've sent letters, we have spoke to them personally on more than one occasion. You guys can do the same.
And they have no reason for why they're not trying to correct this?
I will say that the legislators that represent this district have introduced legislation to attempt to lessen the burden. They have not, those hearings have not been held on their legislation. They can be. They can be held tomorrow.
And they run the state.
So
So if they don't want to hear their own legislators.
And again, all I can say is I encourage you, when you leave here tonight, send an email.
Yeah, I wrote down what you
Call
said.
you can call the governor's office. He works for you just as much as he works for me. And we can call him and ask him. He doesn't have to move forward with it. But that's the point. It's a representative democracy. I strongly encourage all of us to participate in that process. Make the phone call. And they can explain to you why it might be a good idea or why not. The governor has encouraged that we build over, I think the last number I heard was over 200,000 affordable housing units across the state, which is a lofty goal. I mean, there's teachers who cannot afford a house in the places they live. That's not right either. So there's a balancing act, but trying to foist 2,000 plus affordable housing units on a municipality of our size, taking into account for cemeteries being considered open space, is absolutely egregious. So all I can ask is for help, and that the only help that'll come from residents, if you get enough people calling and saying, I want to change, they might enact change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, before the next person, if you don't mind, just for a second, I've been involved in this for 15 years, but more importantly, part of the negotiation, so it's very easy to sit in the audience when you see myself and Mr. Maskey and Mr. Bernstein just sitting quietly, that we may not look compassionate, or I can assure you that we are, and most of the times we have to calm each other down through some of these meetings, because we're extremely aggravated and we're fighting every day. And when I tell you that reducing numbers of units by, in some cases, 1,000, and the reason why this property hasn't been resolved is because we continue to fight. And Hillsborough Township is the last in Somerset County to agree with the courts and all this going on. So just because we sit up here calmly and not screaming and pounding our fists and throwing things, I can assure you behind closed doors, when we're with the courts and the master, that's exactly what's going on, because we've had it with them and we continue to fight for you guys every day. And that's what we do up here.
I just got a quick question of Mr. Thompson. You said Hillsborough is now a community of 41,000. What is your idea of what the right level of affordable housing is for a community of that size?
I feel like we've already built it.
And what's the number?
Of affordable housing units we've built?
Because I know teachers
so far, are we in the 300 to 400?
Our number was 475, but that wasn't all units. That included some credits and the like.
You want to hear another great thing about affordable housing that'll drive everyone nuts? There's a 30-year limit on it. So the fact that we build a unit to 30 years ago, right, it would become undeed restricted and be regular market rate again. And the other thing about affordable housing, which is just drive everyone nuts, there's no income tests. So if someone move into an affordable housing unit, they can stay in there in perpetuity, even though that maybe there's someone who's struggling today, but they finished their master's and they were able to get that job they've always been dreaming about. The entire system for affordable housing is fundamentally flawed. And I strongly encourage you, we had a great hearing that was on this, that the mayor held, and I forget when that was that? April. April, thank you. Please go back and watch that. I mean, there's stuff in there that you'll learn, and you'll sit there as angry as we were, as you hear these things.
May generate more questions for you, sir.
That's fine, bring them, but half the time it's, please call your legislator and the governor and continue to dialogue with us. That's how we have, again, we're a representative democracy. That's how we make changes, when we all work together and we move forward. So I encourage you to do that.
Mayor?
But we did have a legislator that was there, that's one of the experts on the affordable housing crisis. And so I would encourage you to go back and take a look at it, not because of what we said, but there were people that, are living it down in Trenton every day, explaining why we're here and what the impact to municipalities are. So it's on the website, it's on our YouTube channel. It was April 18th, I believe was the date. It was the town hall. Yes, Council. I'd like to make a proposal, unless there's something.
I want to just
Okay.
answer the last question for the record. We have built approximately, and this is a combination of family, senior, and supportive housing for this round of nearly 400.
Round 2 or 3?
The current round.
Okay.
The current round from 98 to the present.
So we're not counting what we had to build in round 2?
We are not counting
Or round
round
1?
1 or round 2, nor are we counting the missed opportunity that looks like Hillsborough Promenade from round 2.
Yes, when individuals, a long time ago, thought building a Lowe's was affordable housing compliant. Yeah, that's a whole nother issue that one day I'd love to talk about.
So that's the current number you're on.
Yeah, thank you. I think, as I said, I think our number was 475, but that included like bonus credits and things, so about 400.
This is excluding
Right, that's the number of units built, and that is, that is nothing like what we were likely to have to deal with. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak?
Too slow.
Hi, I'm Sharon Baragi. I live at 133 Taylor. I've lived in Hillsborough for 58 years and in this development. And I've watched development along 206 affect the houses in my neighborhood. I've helped people bail water out of their homes. My aunt's house, I sold it. I had to sell it for a lot less than it was worth because she had to disclose that there was water in the house a couple of times. It didn't flood in the 60s. It didn't flood in the 70s. It flooded after the courtyard was built and after the expansion of 206. I'm not against affordable housing. I'm against flooding. One other thing, it's zoned light industrial, so when you have an industrial building, you have a few bathrooms and some hand washing stations. When you have a development, you have toilets and washing machines, all flushing and discharging water at the same time. Doesn't that affect the runoff a little more than an industrial building would?
No,
that goes to
that's part of the
sewers.
sewer process. So that's why all the affordable units have to be built in a sewer area, so that there's not, it's not affecting that. But the piping would have to already be in place.
But there's a lot more water going into the sanitary system at that point.
Yeah, but the sanitary and the runoff are two separate processes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Christine Copen, 7 Magdalene. So I can definitely see all of the council is very frustrated. Obviously, you've all been fighting hard against this for us. And I can see that you realize you have a very lot of upset people who have some cases been in town for 30 years. What do you suggest we do than a plea for help to an assembly member? What can we do to get some of our concerns addressed? How can we actually make ourselves in a better position? If you can't fight this for us, give us an option. Because right now we're hearing no option for help at all.
So-
It's ask you guys to turn down an ordinance that you're telling us is better for us in the long end.
Yeah.
And we understand that, but what can we actually do?
So, a couple things. The ultimate resolution to this has to be legislative. However, we certainly understand what you guys are all going through. I will tell you, it's not unique to some of the discussions that we've had on some of the other projects, but certainly there is a uniqueness to this site that I understand the concerns that are being raised. So a couple of things. I think you do need to we continue to fight, we will. As part of the process that we're going through, Administrator Ferreira just noted, we're down in Somerville twice a month dealing with the courts on how we can resolve this in the least impactful way to Hillsborough. So how do we build what we need to, what we're mandated to, and not have residents screaming that their basements are being flooded, or that, that their backyard is now looking at a development. Those are the kind of things that we're wrestling with throughout the municipality. So your voice is something that we need to hear, because these are the things that are important to us, and we need to understand how the things that we're looking at are going to affect you. We think we know, but it's nice to hear, because it gives us a little more in-depth view of what we can do, or what we need to know. But the biggest issue that we need to deal with is getting the people that are ultimately going to have to resolve this to hear that voice. And that may be from us saying, that may be us saying, sorry, we just can't do anymore, and if that means we got to fight it in the courts, we will. That's always an avenue we have to take, but as I said earlier, that has to be done in a responsible way. We can't, as much as we want to say no to all of it, that's not the responsible thing that we're tasked to deal with. It's just not.
And I can hear that, and I hear your frustration on our behalf. But what are our choices? Can we find a way to include in the new ordinance or in the changing of the plan to make it only 2 stories, to address maybe traffic concerns? How is you telling us your hands are tied give us action that we can take? We are here giving you our voices.
If there are alternatives that become more palatable, we're certainly happy to take a look at them.
So for a homeowner, we would have received a notice saying, come to this meeting to discuss. And now we're being told at this meeting, we can't do anything for you. We can't help you work with the courts or help you work with the developer. We can't do anything to address your concerns because we're trying to do the best for you. And I thank you for your service. What I'm trying to say is practically right now, besides an email or a snail mail that's going to go to nowhere at a legislator's office.
I prefer torches and pitchforks, but I don't know if that'll work.
But how do we actually get help? Do you have any suggestions what we as residents can do?
What I can say is most of the things that we've
process?
heard tonight, quite honestly, is really a planning board direction. We're here tonight just to introduce this ordinance, or the public hearing, I'm sorry, to discuss that. And that is the piece of the affordable housing element that we need to do to move forward to meet our obligations. That's strictly just the move tonight. That's the public hearing that we're hearing tonight. As far as the application goes, it does come after this process. And you will hear the process. And if you've not been to a public planning board hearing yet, I can promise you that everyone sitting in this audience, we hear this from everybody who's affected with anything built in Hillsborough Township. It's always flooding, impervious coverage, traffic studies. Any applicant that comes before the planning board has to go through all of that process. We don't make those decisions here as the Township Committee. We only finalize those decisions made by the process of the planning board. So if that helps you, the flooding issues, yes. The engineering and all that goes along with that is a process and will be discussed as the applicant will come through for any building in town.
So for us is right now, our priority should be working with the planning committee. How do we get it heard? I'm actually asking you as a question, as our board, how do we do this? What's a practical
Well, were you
answer?
addressing the planning board direction or the affordable housing element?
Either or. What actually gets me somewhere? I'm interested in both of your answers. I'm not interested in just hearing this, our hands are tied, and yes, we're going to be miserable. What can we actually do?
I think as was discussed, you have to reach out to your legislators. And don't get us wrong. I mean, I'm a real estate agent that has been down in Trenton on multiple occasions as a real estate community, as a league of municipalities. Doug Thompson can probably speak clearly that too. This has been ongoing. This is not something that happened overnight. It really has been many, many years that we have fought. And we will continue to fight. I know when someone said, why do you continue to fight? Well, if we just throw in the towel, who's going to represent you? And we are here to represent you. On a very passionate level. We all live in this town, we care about this town. You know, we are here to hear you, but there are some things that we don't have control over, and that is legislative direction for affordable housing.
And I appreciate that.
I hear what you're saying, I understand your question. I think the next, depending on what happens here tonight, depending on the vote, I would engage Mr. Maskey, who is our town planner, and you can start dialoguing with him about what they possibly are proposing for that ordinance, and to talk about things like traffic and things like that. That's probably the next appropriate step, depending on what happens here tonight. And again,
And we'll
we
actually
didn't take a vote.
get notice
but-
for that, though? Because some of us
No, I'm saying just
found out.
That's not a noticeable, until they go to make a plan on the property. I'm just saying, you ask, what else can we do to start dialogue?
So my question is that the applicant, the application goes in, when do we know? How do we know
So
these
you will,
things? Is there any
when
schedule
the
you can give us?
application, when the application is submitted, that you will get notice, and then we have to have the hearing on, that'll go through the architecture and the engineering and the.
Well, it sounds like they're already making requests about the engineering.
Really?
I don't know, this one working or not? No.
Be nice and loud.
Slide over. Okay. Yes, you would get a notice when the application actually gets filed with our office, but in the interim, I think it was asked before, when might this come to the planning board? We're probably talking about 2020, January, February, perhaps. There's still some more processes that they have to go through with the court, et cetera. Feel free to call the Planning and Zoning Department anytime you wish. Call us monthly, weekly, whatever you want. Say, is this, whatever, Campus Associates, is it scheduled yet? We'll be happy to tell you. And this way you'll get as much notice as possible.
We'll get as much notice as possible by contacting you.
Yeah, call the office, or you send us an email.
Weekly,
whatever-
monthly, daily, guys.
Whatever you want to do, but that's fine.
We don't file the
Probably
application,
wouldn't
so
get
we
that-
wouldn't know in advance.
Yeah, wouldn't get that far until.
Understood.
Yeah, it's already October, November. We're talking really next year before they actually get a formal application in front of the planning board. But certainly you would be required to have a notice, mailed to you before that.
Depending on how close you live to the property, though. Someone in your
200 feet,
neighborhood would be
But I'm
noticed.
sure if everybody within 200 feet gets a notice, the whole neighborhood will know. But it doesn't matter where you live. You can just contact our office anytime to find out what's on the agenda, or how far away it is. Have you received anything filed for a formal application yet? And we'll be happy. And you can come in and look at everything, and
Can
we'll go
we
over
act-
the whole application with you.
Can we actually affect the outcomes of the planning committee as you work to
You
do
would-
this
well, you
planning or
would come-
zoning?
You'd come to the planning board hearing itself, and just quickly the way it works, the applicant would put on their witnesses, their testimony, and then anybody has an opportunity to question that witness about, whether it be traffic, stormwater, et cetera. And then at the end of the hearing, you could come up and say anything you want in terms of commenting on the application. So there's at least 2 opportunities within the planning board hearing to state any concerns you have, give your comments, et cetera, before the board actually takes action on it.
Does anyone in the public have the ability to call witnesses as well for that meeting?
If you have an attorney, yes.
If we have
Yes.
an attorney?
Yes, but then you'd have to have, generally, for testimony, it's expert testimony.
Expert testimony.
So, yeah, an engineer, someone that, you can't just get up and say whatever you want as part of testimony.
Right, so thank you. I appreciate the lesson in how this works.
And I can tell you, Committeeman Lapani and I sit on the planning board, so those are, the board is pretty responsive to trying to work with issues that are raised by the residents, try to get the applicant to give a little bit on some of the things that they're looking at. It's obviously within some level of moderation, but there are a number of adjustments that typically get made to applications during that process.
Are there any other portions of the plan or of this process where we can actually affect what's happening to our homes in our neighborhood?
Yeah, I think you guys have done a pretty good job of it tonight.
And
He's taking notes back there.
I know you guys are taking a
Yeah.
beating. We do appreciate it.
Yeah.
But as you can see, we're the ones who are going to have flooded
Yeah.
basements staring at what could look like cinder block walls. We have no idea.
Yeah.
And we're trying to let you
Fair.
know that we need your help. And we appreciate that your hands are tied either by the court or, by picking the lesser of two evils. But anything you can do to actually help us as your constituents be there and actually affect the outcome of this, that's more appreciated than you telling us you have sympathy for us.
Mayor,
So.
We appreciate it, yeah.
can I make one other suggestion for the residents to deal with? Irrespective of what the board does tonight, and with all due respect to my colleague sitting about 5 rows behind you, start sending a message to the developer on what's going on. It's his application. The gentleman, in his defense, does not represent the applicant in terms of the matter. There are other members of his firm. He's here representing the firm. However, they're all going to see you again if this thing is adopted when it comes to the application. If you deliver the message home earlier in advance, and members of this committee who have been members of the board, including Mr. Lapani, who is the former chairman of the board, knows that when our residents send messages to developers, they generally listen. And if they don't listen at their own peril.
I think we can also appreciate that advice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do urge you to please vote against it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll get one more thing real quick. Obviously, there's probably about 50 or so of you here from the development. It's a nice army. That army should march down to Somerville or to your local reps in the office one day and just knock on the door and say, we're here to talk. Instead of that phantom email or one phone call, show up and kind of bang on his door a little bit. Maybe call News 12 while you're there. Something like that,
There is an election.
So I'm Amy O'Brien. I also live on Kimberly Road, and like Danielle I measured. I'm the one with the tape measure. 14 feet of water at the end of my driveway and 9.5 feet of water in my house. So obviously the flooding thing for us is the biggest thing. But I want to say I have learned a ton here tonight. And I really do appreciate the education that I've just gotten. So here's what scares me. Everything you said.
Doug does that, sorry.
And the other thing that scares me is, and I could spend hours listening to that, by the way. The other thing that scares me is the loss of control, or the potential for loss of control. So what I really appreciate is the resonance of do as little as you possibly can and have as much control as you can. So what I kind of have learned tonight is if we lose control, we've lost everything. So to the degree there is a level of control over this process and the next step in the process, we may take back some of the control. So I really appreciate, though, being informed. So one of the things that we don't live within 200 feet, so we found out by word of mouth, thank goodness. And so the degree to which we now can understand what's going to go on in our backyard and then have a voice in it, the last thing we now want is to find out, wow, I wish I'd known, I wish I could have, I wish I'd.
Yeah.
So I would like to be more educated and like I said, maybe that just means,
I believe on the town
radio
website
show,
too,
but-
their agendas are posted in advance,
Well,
and
yeah, and I think notification first.
yeah,
I mean,
so if you're
that's on
interested
me,
though,
right?
it's,
I have to show up
the
tonight,
planning
I
board
have to go to the
schedule
website.
the planning board schedule's on the website,
Right.
and they will post the agendas as well. So if you're not getting noticed per se, because you're not within the feet that you get noticed in, you could access that.
And so I'm an active participant now, so I'm going to be looking at that. But I think importantly, there's a lot, it took a long time tonight for me to really understand some of this. So a lot of us are coming in here and we're reacting. We don't understand all the piece parts, right? And thank goodness some of my neighbors have done a tremendous amount of research, and I learned an awful lot from that tonight as well. So I think it's now obviously on me to participate in the process and make as much of a difference, because what I heard a lot tonight was, it matters to us what goes on the property. Well, that matters to us right now. Right now.
Yeah.
Regardless of what,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that matters to us right now. So we have to have a say in what goes on the property. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Can I just? Mayor, perhaps, because it has been referenced several times tonight, that April 18th meeting, perhaps we can put it in the e-news, the next e-news, highlighted in there again. And if you don't subscribe to the e-news, if you visit our website, I think the mayor said it earlier.
Or the Hillsborough YouTube channel.
Yeah, and you can watch it again and just get that information. And just, stay up to date through that as well. So I just wanted to add that.
So,
For that.
I'm not sure if there's still others that want to talk, but I just, based upon the last comments, I'm glad that what we were trying to convey maybe is starting to understand. I will say this, we have heard you. We are trying to manage it, as I said earlier, in the best way possible without being overly burdensome and not subjecting you to a complete lack of control. And our task is to try to mitigate the problems. It's to make the best solution possible for all of Hillsborough. So the fact that we're here having to deal with the affordable housing issue is a process that has been coming for a long time. I think, my colleague here who lives it every day down in Trenton is much more eloquent on it than I am. But, the fact that there has been no action is infuriating to all of us, as what should be to you as well. And we've been trying to work these projects so that, we build where it makes sense. We put the affordable housing projects in where we can mitigate some of the impact to all the things that we've talked about, the infrastructure and the road and the schools and the services that need to be provided by the municipality, and do that in a way that is prudent and responsible, but not overly burdensome to the population. I think one of the things that we've heard here tonight, at least I have, I won't speak for everyone, is your concerns very clearly. So I am going to make a proposal, and I hope I can get a motion that we defer this decision and see if there are other alternatives that we can look at that might be even a better solution than what we're looking at here today. Counselor, I'm assuming, while we have some risk, we have a little bit of time to maybe revisit this option?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, Your Honor, you have ostensibly 3 options at the moment. You can, 4. Option 1 is obviously to adopt the ordinance on second reading. The second option is to reject the ordinance on second reading. The third option is to close the public hearing and carry the decision on it to a meeting certain with a date to be determined. The fourth is to carry the hearing with notice here tonight and the decision to a subsequent meeting, of which I would assume if it is one of the latter 2, I'm going to be instructed to reach out to the court master and see what we can deal with.
Yeah. So I would like to entertain a motion to defer.
Excuse me, Mayor? I just have a question for Counselor. We currently have the public hearing open. Does he not need to just close the public hearing before we can?
That's up to the committee. Has 2 options if they want to defer a decision. One is to not close the hearing and carry it and the decision to a date certain. Or the alternative is to close the hearing, but carry the decision to a date certain.
Okay.
No, the public should get it.
Those are your two options.
I have one question before we make that decision. Is this in any way going to, I know you have to talk to the court master because we have a deadline to meet. And with all due respect, with our timing and our meetings and our noticing and everything, are we going to be able to meet that deadline date?
We have immunity through
So-
the 15th of December. I assume, depending on what the action of this governing body is, I anticipate at least 3 phone calls tomorrow. One from the master, one from Fair Share, and one from the applicant. Not necessarily in that order. I think there is a certain limited amount of time, Committee Woman, in order to take another look without necessarily jeopardizing our overall immunity.
Mayor, at this time, then, I would like to make a motion that we carry it, but we do not close the public hearing in case there is anything else that comes out of whatever discussions you have with any discussions council has with the court's special master. I don't know if that needs to be memorialized in a different manner, or if that's appropriate to ask that we carry it and leave the public meeting portion
To the
open.
next committee meeting, which is November the 12th.
As long as that gives you enough time to talk to the master, I'd be okay with that.
So essentially, the
Is that
meeting
clear?
would be allowed for people from the public to come up again and continue to make comment. Is that correct, Mr. Bernstein?
Yes, it would.
I would just ask that the public, with that caveat, with the public, obviously, we heard you and what you said this time, if we don't repeat ourselves, but hopefully, things will change in that process, and we can talk about whatever changes, hopefully, come forward.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
And just to be clear, the date certain would be the next scheduled meeting, so there'll be no further notice provided, so nobody's going to get individual notice, so it'll be carried to, what is it, November what?
November 12th.
November 12th, everyone, November 12th.
Is on the board.
So write that down, November 12th, because there's not going to be a separate notice sent out. Okay.
So
Can I have a roll call, please?
I just have one question. So I understand. So we are on the November 12th agenda. I will have this again as a public hearing.
And second reading.
Perfect. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Committeeman Lapani?
Yes.
Committeewoman McCauley?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thompson?
Yes, but Mayor, can I make a quick comment? So, to be very clear, this is not a Republican issue of affordable housing. This is not a Democrat issue on affordable housing. I've said this on numerous occasions. This is now an issue of what's left of the Garden State. We are quickly losing the identity of towns like Hillsborough because of this affordable housing requirement. And as I said earlier, there is a need for affordable housing. That is crystal clear in our state. When nurses and teachers can't afford to live in communities they work in and live in, or try to live in, it's a travesty. However, being required to build 2,500 units of affordable housing, or 10,000 units altogether, is a travesty, and we have to address it. So I encourage everyone to reach out to your legislators, reach out to us. You email mayor@hillsborough-nj.org, and he can certainly pass you on who to contact to as well. But I can't stress this enough. This is not a party issue. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, agnostic, in between, doesn't matter. This is something that if we band together, we can protect what little we have left to protect here in Hillsborough in terms of our green properties, so it just doesn't turn into houses everywhere. We can do it if we stand together. So I really encourage you to contact the mayor at hillsborough-nj.org, and he can pass you on who you reach out to. So
Or your legislators are online, too.
the legislator online, if you email him, the mayor can certainly push out who you need to contact to. Members of all parties. Thank you. I voted yes. If I didn't, yes.
Just wanted to make sure.
Mayor Delcor?
So,
Mayor Delcor,
just to piggyback quickly, yes?
Are you voting?
I will, in just a second.
Sorry. Sorry.
He's earned it. He's got the center table.
I just want to make sure we are going to try to revisit what can be done here. I would still strongly recommend that you move forward with the discussions that we've talked about, getting to the people that can truly influence this process. I think, to your point, we are trying to do what we can here, and we continue to do that. But the solution lies with others in a much bigger way than we can deal with. But I think, given the conversation we've had tonight, I think the right thing to do is to see what else we can do to help this community out. So I will vote yes to defer this as well.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay. We are going to move on to the introduction of new ordinances. It doesn't have anything to do with this one.
But you can stay a little longer, there's still more to go.
It's easy. Ordinance 2019-22 is an ordinance authorizing acceptance of Hillsborough Road right-of-way, dedication of portion block 204.04, lot 25.08, Woods Road right-of-way, dedication portion of block 2404, lot 2507, which is a 25-foot wide storm sewer easement portion of block 2404, lot 2501, and stormwater management maintenance easement, block 2404, lot 2502. Further consideration of this ordinance and a public hearing will be held on November the 12th. So municipal land use law permits the conveyance of easements via an ordinance. The township attorney has reviewed this and has found this to be an acceptable conveyance. May I have a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
Second, Mayor.
Any comments from the dais? Any comments from the floor? Roll call, please.
Committeeman LaPlante?
Yes.
Committeeman McCauley?
Yes.
Committeeman Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Delacroix?
Yes. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. We had already approved earlier items 1 and 2, so we're only looking at item number 3, which is a resolution authorizing T&M Associates to provide tax map update reviews. May I have a motion to approve that remaining item on the consent agenda?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Any comments from the dais? Comments from the floor? Roll call, please.
Committeeman LaPlante?
Yes.
Committeeman McCauley?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Delacroix?
Yes. And can I have a motion to approve claims list 2019-29?
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Comments from the dais? From the floor? Roll call, please.
Committeeman LaPlante?
Yes.
Committeeman McCauley?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Delacroix?
Yes. That concludes our regular meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
I
Good night.
oppose. I strongly
night.
oppose.
I wanna stay.
This meeting.
By all means.
Of course.